I'd like to call the regular town meeting for October 14th, 2025. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Allegiance.
Here we have Frank Fender.
I'll say that's okay. We're okay? Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor, are we okay with Frank Fender being on the phone today?
Yes, sir. As long as we have a quorum physically present, which you do have, then a member can attend remotely, whether it's by Zoom or phone, is fine.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, sir.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burrill?
Here.
Commissioner Fender?
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Here.
Commissioner Titicus?
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. Any changes, additions, deletions to the agenda? Vice Mayor.
I'd like to pull item, and let's see here.
I'm sorry, couldn't hear you.
Item number 4A for discussion, and item 2A for discussion.
If I may, 2A is an ordinance that we are doing the first, or the second reading on, so that is going to be open for discussion and
Yes.
public hearing.
Okay.
And then 4A is also an issue that I'm bringing back, just so we can go on the record of you all telling me what exactly you'd like for me to do.
Will
So
we say that again?
4A is going to be discussed as well. I put it on the agenda so we could clarify my direction.
But I don't understand what your direction, that's why it's up for discussion.
Right, well, that's why it's on the
Yes,
agenda.
they're up for discussion.
Yeah, I know, but I want to pull it from the agenda, but okay.
Well, it's not on the consent agenda, it's on the regular agenda.
Commissioner Titicus.
Yeah, I'd like to pull from the consent agenda, let's see here, the meeting of September 11th, item B, the minutes, the draft minutes, and also, that's it.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
there's two updates. There was an email that went out, I'm not sure if everybody got it, but on the schedule of meetings for next year, 2026, because we'd like
Yes.
to get that published. We did have a modification on the date in July. I think it was July the 14th, and that was a conflict for one of our commissioners, so we changed it to July 21st. I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that.
Okay. Commissioner Mayfield.
Yes, I'm making a motion to approve the agenda with 1B pulled from the consent agenda.
Second.
Roll call.
Where's
Vice Mayor Burrill?
the- Yes.
Commissioner Fender?
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Titicus?
Yes.
Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And then I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Fender?
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Titicus?
And that's with the item being pulled.
Correct.
Yes.
Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burrill?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, Commissioner Titicus and item B.
Okay. If you go to the minutes, let me give you a page number. On on page 15, I would like the minutes to reflect that I also pointed out that Commissioner Fender's email as of September 11th was telegraphing how he intended to vote, and that also could be an ethics issue. And then on page 15, I would like, or page, 16,
I don't see it, page 16. Oh, yes, I do, never mind.
under Manaway drainage improvements, after the first paragraph, I would like it to point out and reflect in the minutes that I asked CapTech to pick up the overage since they did the design, and the design was flawed.
Feel free to let that nonsense die on the vine.
Those are the only changes I had.
Motion?
A motion to approve the changes?
Second.
Just a point of order, it should be to approve the minutes with the adopted changes.
Approve the minutes with the adoptive changes. Thank you.
Okay. So, okay, I want to approve your minutes with the adopted changes.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Titicus?
Yes.
Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burrill?
Yes.
Commissioner Fender?
No.
Mr. Mayor, before you move further down the agenda, we skipped over the life-saving award presentation. So if I can direct you back to the top of the agenda.
Okay, I apologize.
Where is that?
All right. Chief?
Thank you. You're just going to stand here and look handsome. On Sunday, September 14th, 2025, at approximately 9 a.m., Officer Alan Andretti was playing soccer in Miami when his coach suffered a cardiac episode and collapsed on the field at Highland Oaks Park. Without hesitation and guided only by his instinct to serve, Officer Andretti immediately rushed to the victim's side and began administering cardiopulmonary resuscitation, better known as CPR. He continued his life-saving efforts tirelessly with the assistance of two other players, both student doctors, until the arrival of Miami-Dade fire rescue personnel, who assumed care and transported the victim to Aventura Hospital, where he was later stabilized and continues to recover slowly. Officer Andretti's quick response, calm professionalism, and selfless commitment in the face of crisis exemplify the highest standards of courage and compassion. Though off-duty, he demonstrated that a true public servant is never really off-duty. His decisive actions directly contributed to saving a life and reflect great credit upon himself and the Sewell Point Police Department. For his extraordinary actions, dedication to duty, and life-saving efforts, he is hereby awarded our life-saving commendation. The specific language, some of this might be redundant on that commendation, is on Sunday, September 14th, 2025, at approximately 9 a.m., Officer Alan Andretti was playing soccer in Miami when his coach suffered a cardiac episode and collapsed on the field at Highland Oaks Park. I'll skip to the next part. The most important thing to remember here is that Officer Andretti's actions that morning serve as a powerful reminder that the call to serve does not end when the uniform comes off. His quick thinking, composure under pressure, and selfless dedication to preserving life embody the finest traditions of the Sewell Point Police Department. And I have to tell you, I had to make him come here this evening. When I told him he was receiving a life-saving award, he said, "Do I have to?" I said, "Yes, you do." And I can tell you, I've been on a medical assist with him where CPR was also attempted and unfortunately was not successful based on the circumstances. But I'm exceedingly proud of him. He's a young officer and as honorable as they come, and I know that, he had hoped that things would be moving along more quickly. It turns out it's actually a friend of his. It was his soccer coach. But that ability to quickly recognize the type of emergency that you had there and to be able to provide that immediate treatment is what's critical. And that's part of what we do here that, as you know, we give away a lot of life-saving awards because our officers do a great job doing that because we're able to respond quickly. And they say, and seconds count, and they really do in these types of circumstances. So I'd like to congratulate you, present to you this life-saving pin that will go on your uniform, as well as these. And I'm glad to see that his wife and his children are here today. And there will soon be another little officer coming to us soon, so congratulations.
Just real quick, I wanted to thank everyone for everything. I think I wouldn't have been prepared as I have if it wasn't for the police department. Chief and Lieutenant has done a very, very good job with me and guiding me and teaching me and showing me wisdom and patience. And it's a privilege to be here again in this police department, surrounded by knowledge and wisdom, along with the residents that live here. It's nice to talk with them, and they can give some wisdom to me as me getting older and guiding my kids. And I'd like to thank all of you for that, okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, and before we move on, I would like to thank Aubrey Grace from Visiting Angels for bringing in refreshments today for everybody that's here. Thank you so much. It's very kind of you and very generous.
And we also have the general public comment.
Yes.
We need to do that next, please.
Oh, okay. All right, now we go to public comment.
You have the card?
Well, it's on non-agenda items.
Yes.
Right.
It's on individual.
Okay.
So I'll call each one, I'm going to call
Okay.
them out for that.
Sounds good. I just wanted to make sure we made the announcement, so.
All right, the first one's going to be, we're going on to public hearing for ordinance, second reading, ordinance number 475-25, driveway drainage. And we do have one public comment for that.
Mr. Persivia, can you?
Yes, ordinance number 475-25 is an ordinance of the Town of Sewell, Point, Florida, amending Chapter 52, Article 2, Sections 52-23, 52-24, and 52-29, creating regulations for the installation of driveways to include drainage trenches and water runoff control, providing for definitions, design standards, and enforcement, providing for conflict severability, and an effective date.
All right, and we do have one public comment for that. Scott Kraft.
Good evening. Scott Kraft, 4 Delano Lane. I'm not completely sure about the content of this particular change. And what I need to know is whether we're going to address any type of grade at all, because I think the spirit of it was about all the driveways that are huge, coming from the river down, washing out people below them. I have approximately 600 to 800 linear feet of driveway, which, based on this, if I put a drainage box every 25 feet, I'm about $12,000, $15,000 into boxes with no grade to go anywhere. So I have a flat driveway, and we don't really address that as far as I can see. I don't know what my relief would be, why I need to go to the DEP and do the things that someone would do with new construction. where it's a pre-existing driveway that really doesn't impact any of my neighbors in a negative way when we have rain. And all I would want to do is replace what I have there in the future. But it seems like I'm restricted from this in that I have to go through all of the motions here to accomplish that, which would be very costly. So I'm just wondering if somebody can address that. If I thought initially, maybe I missed a meeting, but I thought at one of the meetings we were going to address pitch and whether or not there could be some type of waiver, something for someone that really doesn't have a situation that's going to negatively impact any neighbors or the town. So, any questions for me? One last thing, since I have time, I don't see the timer going, but
Sure.
we take a lot of polls in this town. We ask a lot of people a lot of questions. I'm totally for giving the police their break room. We have wonderful people on this force. We have a donation toward it. I really don't understand what the hesitation is. You know, if you need extra money, maybe somebody can put extra money in. What's the if we're going to wait 3 years for this building to potentially be raised, or raised as in knocked down, that's 3 years that someone might be on this force. Then maybe the 4th year they get a disability and they're not on this force. But I don't see any reason why every one of these officers shouldn't feel good about where they come for work and why they shouldn't have a private place to discuss their business. I don't think it should be amongst other people. They shouldn't be restricted to their conversation while they're in that room. But thank you for listening.
Thank you, Scott. All right, we go to number 3, public hearing, ordinance first reading, ordinance number 474-25 BZA appeal process.
We didn't do anything with this.
We have the driveway ordinance.
Jumping the gun.
And I'm
Now,
having.
the
pulling it up,
discussion,
so-
I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I just read that, the driveway ordinance.
Correct. And I was just trying to look through my copy on it, and I'm having problems, computer problems, but I thought we addressed the pitch in it. And I can't seem to get it back on my computer, so I apologize.
Page 32. Paragraph 2, slope and flow direction.
So there is language in there regarding the slope and flow direction. It is at the bottom of that page, it's subparagraph 2, and it says, "The driveway must be graded to direct surface runoff into the drainage trenches. B, positive slope shall be provided from the garage or building to the trench drains to ensure flow capture." I'm not sure whether that addresses the gentleman's concerns, and if you have any questions, maybe Joe can address them.
I would assume if the driveway is long and flat and isn't moving left or right, the water is only going to go one direction, and that would be right there, and it would come up and go onto the grass, because there's no way for the water to move forward, backwards, or either direction. So that would be, I guess, an exception to something if the driveway doesn't have a plane going one direction or the other, other than to run it off into the grass on the property.
I think the intent, at least of the ordinance when it was drafted, was that it did deal with the slope of the driveway.
Correct.
Maybe we need to clarify the language so everybody makes it more understandable, I don't know. But
Yeah, and I'm not sure, Joe, I don't want to put you on the spot, Mr. Capra over there, because I don't know if you've looked this over, but maybe we go back and postpone this till the next meeting and add another sentence that says the slope of more than 2%. I don't know the engineering term, what kind of slope you would need to have to require this. Obviously, pure flat is one thing, but, what if it's a 1-degree slope or a 2-degree slope? Because very little is pure flat. It's usually some slope. So if you'd like, we could postpone this.
Press my button, please.
Sure. Okay. Commissioner Fender would like to address the commission.
All right, I also have
I'm sorry.
Commissioner, the Vice Mayor, Commissioner Titicus, and Commissioner Mayfield, too. So, all right, go ahead, Commissioner Fender.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to ask, in addition to the slope concept, is there reference to permeability here? I mean, does this drain requirement get modified if the driveway is fully permeable? You know, they make the,
Yes.
It does.
it does reference that? I'm
Yes.
sorry, where's that located?
Number 5.
If you
Oh,
read
number 5. Hang on one second.
Well, I'm sorry, that's.
Page
should be
33.
C5, yeah.
page 33, number 5.
There you go, what Frank said, page 33.
Driveway is constructed entirely, oh, thank you, yeah, that's great.
And that might be the place where you add another exemption, because that's one exemption. The next exemption could be a driveway that has no pitch or no grade. But again, I'd like Joe's input as to whether it's 1%, 2%, and maybe we just add that there at the next meeting. So,
Do we need to go back, you know, if we can we still approve it since it's not really a title change? Because it does mention slope in the title.
yeah, we don't have the language, though. I think if we came up with the language tonight, we could approve it, but I'm not sure what that language would be. And again,
I don't think Joe's seen this ordinance, so.
yeah, my suggestion is let's postpone it till the next meeting, and if that's okay, and come up with that language as to slope. Because I think you want to
In
be,
favor of that?
I think you want to be precise.
Well, I have a button change, so let me just jump in and say, I have a lot of questions about this. I haven't read it completely, because I got stuck with all this other stuff. I didn't have it in this. So I can say this, that, there's a lot of things in here that I have a question about, like a sloping lawn, sloping this, you know, all kinds of questions. And now, how are they going to give us a configuration on putting in dry wells and doing all this other stuff? Is that what's going to happen? I mean, there's a lot of stuff in this ordinance that, really, we only started out with a simple ordinance. Let's put a grade in when somebody puts in a new driveway. Now they're controlling our dry wells and French drains and everything else. So I think we should put it off till next week, or I mean, the next meeting, so everybody can really study this thing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Yeah, you guys have already said mostly everything. I'm in favor of pushing it off. Also, I don't believe Jack is here. He's always a
No,
good...
he's out on medical today.
Okay. And then there's also driveways that slope towards the house, opposite way. I don't know if they're required, then all the water becomes their problem, much to their chagrin, but we might want to...
Commissioner Titikus.
That was from the last comment. I don't have anything to add.
So my suggestion is probably take a motion to table.
Yeah, do we have a motion to table it?
So move.
I'll
We have a
second.
motion now. We have a
Yeah.
motion to table it,
Okay.
and we have a second.
All right. Roll call to table to next week, or next meeting, should say.
Commissioner Titikus?
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Kurtzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Burrill?
Yes.
Commissioner Fender?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, now we're going to go to public hearing, ordinance first reading. Ordinance number 474-25 BZA appeal process.
This is an ordinance number 474-25, it's an ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewell Point, Florida, pertaining to Chapter 82 zoning, Article 2 administration, amending Division 3 Board of Zoning Adjustment by repealing Subdivision 2 and administrative review, and amending Division 1 generally by adding Section 82-32 appeals of administrative decisions, and amending Division 4 administrative variances for setbacks regarding administrative procedures and appeals of administrative decisions, providing for applicability, enforcement, and penalties, of severability, repeal of laws and conflict, codification, and an effective date.
All right, we do have one public comment on this. Ms. Piccolo, you got a public comment on this.
Ronnie Piccolo, I live on Lucindia. Reading this material, seems to me that there's an oversight here. It seems that the resident participation in this process seems to have been fallen off the track. All I am asking is that when you guys vote, that there is a line added there that the residents still participate in this process. But it has to be in writing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, town manager, or, I'm sorry, vice mayor?
I believe this ordinance should be a standalone ordinance. I don't think we should use that 7425, I guess it is. But what I want to know is, who came up with this ordinance? I mean, where did this come from?
Well, the original, if I may,
Yeah,
okay, the original ordinance that's on file, which is 82-101, it was an ordinance that predates the fact that you had a town manager here. And it directed a number of issues for the chairperson of the BZA to conduct. And so after we got through with the last appeal, we saw that there was a need to update this ordinance. And that's what you have in front of you. And basically puts the emphasis and the responsibility back in my lap in setting up the meetings, setting up the hearings, and making sure the notice is proper.
we never had a problem before.
We never had anything under this ordinance before.
We've had appeals with the BZA before.
No, this isn't dealing with an appeal on a normal BZA matter. This is appealing a decision of the building department. What you're talking about is somebody coming before a variance in front of the BZA. That's still the same. This doesn't change with this ordinance. It just changes, it takes 82-101 and updates it.
Well, it takes it out of the hands of the people who work for the commission. Well, we used to work for the
How
commission.
so?
Well, because what happens is now Mr. Daniels is in charge of it.
No, sir.
And yeah,
I don't read that. Show me where you believe that.
the town
Show me
manager
what you're
versus
saying.
the town manager versus chairperson of the BZA, under the changes, the appeal would be heard by a special magistrate rather than BZA board. All right, that's the town manager's decision. So now he's taking it away from the chairperson. All right? Now we go down to other points in here. We have a $2,000 filing fee. I don't see many people doing an appeal with a $2,000 filing fee. Again, with the special magistrate, everything is a waiver. It should be left as variances. So this is more than just, this is just going to be this, or this is going to be that. No, there's a lot more changes in this, okay? New appeals process. And we never asked for this. And since when do we not get involved in policymaking? I mean, this is a policy-making issue.
Town manager, please.
Okay, you are here doing a policy decision. Okay, this is a problem that we have with our ordinance because it does leave us open for liability. The individual that was charged with doing this under the old ordinance, 82-101, is a volunteer. And asking him to set up a meeting and do all this correspondence and handle the appeal paperwork, it has to be done in a certain manner. And that's why we have a legal staff. And so this whole situation was turned over to the legal staff to figure out the best way of dealing with this. I am not deciding who hears this. That's part of this ordinance, that it goes to the special magistrate instead of the BZA. So it takes the politics out of the situation. You deal with a special magistrate. So, anyhow.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Yeah, there seem to be several things going on. I'm all for having the head of the BZA make notice for meetings, set up the meetings. I do believe that should be the staff. That needs to be executed correctly. And volunteers are great, but that's town business, and it's not making a decision. It's just like the administrative work. I think that should fall to the town manager. So I think that makes a lot of sense personally. As for the special magistrate, that's up to us versus BZA. I think the special magistrate serves a good purpose when the BZA, can't make a decision or has made a decision and the person is appealing it. And as the town manager said, there's the appealing of the building official's decision, and then there's an appealing of the BZA's decision. Is that correct?
Right, of a variance.
Of a variance. So there's two different things. So we're kind of conflating them all, but the town manager said we hadn't had an appeal of a building official's decision, and maybe that's true. I don't remember having one in the past or this being an issue, so I just want to clarify that it gets a little confusing, and I don't think our staff's trying to take over and make decisions, and I like the BZA and I like the Code Enforcement Board. I also like having the option of the magistrate when they can't make a decision or the person wants to appeal. That is very objective. I'm all for objectivity. So, I'm open to, tweaking it a little bit, but I think this is good that it's brought to us so that we can, fix any holes. And if it was made before there was a town manager, that's updating our code and keeping it current with our, how we're set up, so.
Somebody press my button, please.
Commissioner Fender, go ahead.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Hey, so I've had a couple of calls on this ordinance over the week as well, and I'm also concerned about the optics of it. I've read the ordinance and the changes, so I have a couple of questions, and I sort of feel a little bit the way Commissioner Mayfield feels, but can someone just explain to me the nuance between the term variance and waiver?
Counsel, please, if you can.
Well, a variance is from a hardship that the person didn't cause. It's hard to get a variance. It should be hard to get a variance because you have a code and you only get a variance if there's some hardship that wasn't of your own creation and this criteria. A waiver is a little bit easier to get a waiver. So this really makes it a little easier to receive a waiver of a rule than it does a variance from a rule.
And legally, what the town manager stated, do you agree with, that we're protected better if the town manager is...
Well, I agree that administratively, you don't really want to volunteer having the responsibility. They're volunteering. Why should they have to deal with notices and what have you? That
Still
seems...
trying to clarify my question if we get off the topic.
Sorry.
What I have for waiver is, it won't be enforced. It's a rule that won't be enforced. It's exactly what it is.
It's just a variance gives you,
In a
right,
variance, you can enforce it.
right.
Okay, so what you're saying is, if they give a person a waiver to put in something 10 feet from the shoreline, then it's supposed to be 12 feet from the shoreline. There is no, they could move it wherever they want. Is that correct? Or, because a variance, you have more rule.
Well, maybe I should ask my question a different way. Why are we splitting hairs between waiver and variance? What is the driving factor on changing the word to waiver?
Well, because waiver, there is no enforcement. Okay?
No, I'm asking the people who drafted the ordinance. Why did we change it to the word waiver?
That's what I'd like to know, because it got me confused.
Well, that's why I'm asking the question.
Thank you.
You could leave it variance. It just was, variance is a little more difficult to obtain.
Well, if I may, I think the reason why, and I think Elizabeth might have crafted
Right.
this.
She did.
I think the reason why, because it doesn't really deal with a variance that the BZA deals with under a normal basis. They're not asking for a variance of a code provision. They're not asking for a variance, in your example, of how many feet they are. No, that's a variance. That's not what's being addressed in this code. This code is addressing a decision made by the building department or official. And those decisions can have a financial impact on the town. And that's why...
Is it true that a variance is a subset of a waiver? A waiver categorizes a broader area of topics, including a variance.
Well, again, maybe I didn't state this the right way. So a variance is usually something that's granted after a hearing, a quasi-judicial hearing, and there's evidence as to why someone is entitled to a variance. As Bob's explaining, this is an administrative waiver of something that the building official made a decision on, so it still remains with staff. And now if the person's not happy, if someone's not happy with the staff decision as the building official as either supported or waived by the manager, then they would appeal that.
They still have the right to appeal that, is the way I interpret that, if I'm correct.
Yes.
So that's why the waiver is a broader topic that says, hey, somebody can still appeal the building official's waiver approach, and that still allows them a path through this ordinance to access appeals process, if that's true, and you can correct me. And if that's true, then that's phase one of my question, which you've clarified, if I'm right. And then phase two goes on to how does the appeal process work? And the third topic of who actually schedules meetings, I think is neither here nor there, right? I mean, that's just schedule a meeting and have somebody in staff do it. If you're concerned about being the town manager, you can just say town staff or something. I don't know, but somebody needs to schedule the meeting. I don't believe it needs to be the head of the BZA to schedule the appeal.
Well, page 40 has variance in it. Is that a mistake? On the bottom on 82-144 appeals?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your statement.
The question was that the Vice Mayor asked, is under 82-144, it mentions variance, and I believe he directed the question to our town attorney if that was an error.
Oh, yeah.
Because every place else, they changed to waiver. Except,
Well, see, now you have two different processes. You can either apply with an application for a variance if someone wants to seek a variance, but you could do it with the Board of Zoning Adjustment.
Which is a
Push my
normal
button one more
process.
time, please.
Okay, well, let me just make sure the town attorney's
Dave,
complete with his
I
explanation.
pushed my button a while back.
Yeah, now everybody keeps talking now with Commissioner Titicus, please.
I got a couple issues. Number one, a while back, the town manager told us that he asked for some guidance in terms of an ordinance before we engaged our attorney to draft an ordinance. And we seem to have drifted away from that because this is the first time that anybody on this dais is seeing this. Secondly,
First reading.
excuse me, Frank, I was not interrupting you. I don't expect to be
I
interrupted
didn't.
by you.
My apologies.
Secondly, we also had passed a resolution a while back saying that anybody that submitted anything for the agenda, their name should go next to it so we know where it's originated from. So I would like to see that back. When it comes back to 47425, there's a couple things. I think that this repeals citizen involvement. And when something like this is presented, it should be presented with the current ordinance and then the proposed ordinance on a side-by-side so that we have an opportunity to go through it. I spent a fair amount of time going through, looking up our town code to see what sections were impacted. The other thing is that when you look at this, I have an issue with the special magistrate. How many cases has this special magistrate found for the citizens of this town in a 4-year period of time? I could only think of one. And a special magistrate is a judge and a jury rolled into one, as opposed to a board of 5 citizens that have an opportunity to sit down and to weigh the matter and come to a decision. The explanation that, well, if the citizens are unable to arrive at a decision, I sat on the Board of Zoning Adjustment for 8 years, and we had never come to a situation where we could not arrive at a decision. Secondly, and the issue, I admit, is de minimis in terms of the scheduling of it. Our code says that the head of the BZA is responsible for scheduling the meetings. They were normally set at a set time and date. They were usually either the second or the third Wednesday of the month at 10 o'clock in the morning. And if there was no business to come for the BZA, there was no meeting. So there was a set time for that. Secondly, when you look at paragraph C here, it says the appeal must be taken within 30 days of the administrative decision. Well, I look at this as, this is what I consider to be the hooker ordinance, because this is all generating out of 7 Morgan Circle. And in 7 Morgan Circle, the BZA had heard the hearing, and after they heard the hearing, it took the attorney for the BZA 3 weeks to draft a response. Now, with the 30-day clock, that left the hookers less than 5 business days in order to file an appeal. They sent a letter in to the town requesting an appeal to this body, and then they received a letter back from Mr. Torsivia after the time had passed, basically saying that, that this body was the inappropriate body and that their next, court or their next remedy was a Circuit Court of Appeals. So the wording here that says the appeal must be taken within 30 days of the administrative decision is wrong. It should be of when the written order is rendered. Secondly, paragraph E. At the time of the appeal is filed, the appellant shall pay the town clerk a filing fee of $200 or $2,000. The current filing fee is $750. And if the appellant is successful, they get $500 of the $750 back. There's no such language in here, other than the fact that it's $2,000. And $2,000 basically is designed to discourage people from appealing any decision from our building official. I already addressed the time and the date. I would also like to point out to you that the hearing before the special magistrate should be quasi-judicial in nature. And that currently is the way it is, and it shouldn't be the special magistrate, it should be the BZA. And the decision should be in writing and filed with the town clerk. Right now, we don't have a town clerk, but be that as it may. I see nothing wrong with our current ordinance other than cleaning it up. I don't think that we should limit citizen involvement and turn it over to a special magistrate. It's just, all we're doing is discouraging our citizens from being involved in their community, and that's not the goal that we're here for. Thank you.
Just press my button, please.
Okay, we got Commissioner Mayfield. Jeez. And then you'll go next.
You first.
Okay, Frank.
So I agree with most of that, actually. And so it seems like there are several easy, quote-unquote, fixes since this is first reading. I might just suggest some. You can take them or leave them. I wonder if it wouldn't make this more clear if we said variance or waiver and all the references of both variance and waiver, so you can say it's either or both. To your point about 30 days, I agree. And maybe the wording is 30 days after the receipt of the, I don't know the word, ruling or whatever the word is on the response that took 3 weeks. And I do question, though, that to have an appeal to the same body that the original decision went against. So, I don't think this takes away from the BZA at all. I think the people should have, we don't want to discourage any resident not having a voice in the process, and I think that's what the BZA is for. I don't think anybody's suggesting that the BZA go away. I even like your idea of having a standing meeting every Tuesday at 10:30, if that's what it is, and if there's no data, then cancel the meeting. But if the case comes before the BZA and is denied, and the resident wants to appeal at a reasonable price, if the price currently is $750, I'm for keeping it that. They should be very clear in this ordinance about what the cost is. But then And it seems like if you're going to appeal, you don't want to appeal to the same body. You want to appeal to a higher authority, and that might be a magistrate. I don't know what it is, but that sort of makes sense to me. But I agree with you 100% that we don't want to remove the people's voice in the process.
Okay.
Okay, I get caught up in semantics a little bit, this whole variance versus waivers. A variance, does the building official, quote, grant a variance, or is that only from the BZA?
It's only from the BZA.
Okay, then I like changing it to waiver, because that means that's from the building official, correct?
Correct.
So I like that. I think that makes everything easier, because then you understand a waiver is from the building official, and it looks like it has a definition of what a waiver can be under 82-141 that was already here, and it's defined, setbacks that do not exceed 1 foot and for certain concrete equipment pads that do not encroach more than 3 feet into the setbacks. So in terms of the waiver versus variance, I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense. As for the appeal of the waiver, because that's what he's saying, I think, the town manager, this was about an appeal of the building official's decision, not an appeal of the BZA's decision, correct?
Correct.
So it's kind of a different thing. I agree that we can, section 82-32, which is new, we can tweak the way we see fit. I like it when the staff brings us ideas of what they think it should be, and then we tweak it, and that's ultimately the right decision. I don't think they're trying to pull anything over. Sometimes it always feels like, oh, they're trying to do this. No, I just think they're coming with what they want, we say what we want, and then we get the best decision, and we're trying to work together. So I like that mentality. I think the cost should be what the expense is. $750 looks like it was from a long time ago. I think everything's increased in my life, so I imagine the cost has increased, so that should be too, and if they get it correct or whatever, they can get a refund that's in line with the, that thought process. Commissioner Titicus, some of your points, I think we should look at that, and I need to think about them a little bit more, but yes, I like the waiver versus variance. I think it's a great idea, the semantics there.
And I'm going to make a comment real quick. One of the things, I don't know if everybody's aware or not aware, it costs the town around $15,000 in legal fees for this hearing. It took all day from morning to late afternoon. It went on. It cost Mrs. Hooker $20,000 in legal fees that she had to pay. There were no real winners on this, either direction. She would have been better off going to a circuit court and just going directly there because if you listen back to everything, there was a lot of lack of knowledge, I'll leave it at that, on the attorney at the time that she told me about, and it just, you needed somebody that was more authoritative on this type of situation. I kept looking into things. I still can't comprehend everything, as you see, a lot of things contradict each other when you look into that. And she would have been better off going to a circuit court because they have people that specialize to get all the information, where we really see contradicting information on both sides. One thing says one thing, then you look further back, this says this. You don't know what's right. I'd rather have a judge. This was so complex. I didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole, and that was how I felt when I saw this. And I had a feeling something like this would happen when this finally hit. One way or another, things aren't going to be working out, and this is something that would have been better off going to the court, and she might have been happier with the court's decision than she would over here, because it's more of an understanding. Commissioner Titicus, you've been waiting patiently.
Yeah, a couple of things. One, under Division 4, I'm on page 38, right? 82-141. It says that the town building official shall grant an administrative, and our code currently reads variance for certain building encroachments into the setback that don't exceed 1 foot for certain concrete equipment pads and don't encroach more than 3 feet into the setbacks. So our building official currently has the opportunity of going and saying, okay, you're encroaching in the setback, it's all right, we're going to grant you a buy. You don't have to appeal to the BZA. A lot of the BZA hearings early on were as a result of small incursions into the setback, 6 inches, 1 foot from buildings that had been built many years ago, before the setback rules were changed. So our building official has the opportunity to do that and has the authority to do that under 82-141 today. Why it's being changed from variance to waiver is beyond me, you know? I think that the point that was made earlier is that a waiver is a voluntary relinquishment or surrender of a known right. So, whereas a variance is a formal exception to a regulation, usually related to zoning laws granted under specific conditions. So I'm not sure that the wording variance is really applicable here, because basically we have setback rules, and we're saying you can grant a variance to that setback rules building official. There's no need to change that wording. Secondly, you know, I question the whole need for this, and I want to point out a couple other things. In January of this year, I brought to the attention of Mr. Daniels and Mr. Torsivia the fact that we had a conflict in our code and requested that they review it and come up with a revision in order to work that through. I'm still waiting for it. You know, what the hell? It's only been 9 months. And then secondly, Commissioner Brill also requested that there be clarification in the code between fill and what do you call it? An elevated structure. And that we had a conflict in our codes currently to where when one should be used and one shouldn't, and what the grade should be and all that kind of stuff. We're still waiting on that. Haven't seen that either. And that's probably at least 6 to 7 months. So I'm not quite sure why all of a sudden this is in front of us. And I would suggest and move that this be tabled.
Okay, Town Manager, please.
The issues that you bring up were addressed here in this dais, okay? And this, particularly the Phil situation with the attorney present. And we talked about pilings, if you recall, and we talked about Phil, but it doesn't really relate to the discussion on this ordinance. But I'd be more than happy to discuss that with you. You know, we're trying to get forward the information that this commission wants, the full commission.
This commission didn't ask for this, Bob.
I know, it was a problem that we had. We've already been through this, Commissioner. This is a problem that's in our code. Do you want to address it or not? That's your decision. But I have to do my job to bring it forward to let you know what the situation is. Now, between waivers and variance, that's a legal issue. And, you know, I didn't write the ordinance, but I saw that we had this problem. And I brought it forward, and I'm addressing it with you. If you want to do something with it, that's fine. If you don't want to do something with it, that's fine. But if I don't do my job and bring conflicts forward, I'm just trying to do the best job I can for this commission.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Yes, I am for the staff bringing forth problems, and like he said, we can say no. I'd rather just us work together, come up with our recommendations, give it to them, they do what they need to do, as opposed to airing grievances all the time, which is sometimes what I feel like we're doing. I respect that you don't want to do this. So the tabling, I'm actually thinking about tabling because the building official's not here, and I feel like he's a relevant piece of this conversation as the building official, since it's directly addressing him. So I'm all for tabling it, and I just want to move in a more productive manner. I will say, I catch your point about the variances, because they're both variances. I think I like the idea of changing it because there's a difference, correct me if I'm wrong, between a variance and an administrative variance, because this is referred to as an administrative variance, is that correct? So that in and of itself is confusing, because one is different than the other. So in just an effort, it doesn't have to be a waiver, it could be like just something to help differentiate, because we were discussing, we thought it was an appeal of the BZA decision, but it wasn't. It was an appeal of the building official. So right then there, our conversation was confusing because we all weren't talking about the same thing. That's why I fundamentally liked the idea of changing the wording so it was clear, because let's be honest, laws and ordinances are fundamentally confusing. They're written by lawyers, they're not written by people. So I personally could look more at this appeals of administrative decisions, to your point. I probably need to think about it more, so I'm not against tabling
That's
it.
why I suggested the word "or," so it covers both.
Okay. Vice Mayor.
There's one thing, I agree with bringing things forward. If there's an issue that needs to be talked about, it should be brought forward. But you didn't do that. The issue that you want to discuss and you want to change, you're shoving an ordinance down our throat and telling us you want us to approve it in first reading. That's what I don't like. I mean, you could have just come forward and said, we're going to have to change this, and we're going to have to do that, and give us some time to think about it and sit and rest on it. So now we're going to table it anyway.
But that's kind of how the process works.
Yeah.
The first reading is when we first see it. That's a first
Discussion.
reading. We
Discussion.
discuss it, we do this, we table it, we bring it back. It's
that's
all
not-
part of the process.
If you don't have the discussion, nothing's ever going to happen. This is
And I-
where it starts.
I'm not saying that.
Or
If
it
he
ends.
brought it up verbally, we'd all be like, we need something written before we can talk about it. So
Exactly.
First reading usually gets passed and goes to second right away.
It
There was
didn't-
no discussion. It used to be a workshop, and then it goes into the process. Okay? You did away with the workshop. So now you're approving it the first time you look at it.
I would like to make a motion to table this till the next meeting so that we all have time to look at it, think about it, talk to the town manager on our own about all our issues, whether we really want it here, whether we don't, but I make a motion to table it.
I second that.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Titicus?
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burrill?
Yes.
Commissioner Fender?
Sure.
Motion passes.
All right, now we go to 4B, septic to sewer conversion. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself. I apologize. We're into 4A, optical speed bars.
As I said in my memo, we had a meeting back on February the 11th, 2025, in reference to optical speed bars, and I conferred with the town engineer for getting a price on it, and the issue of getting it accomplished with Phase 3 would save money if we decided to do that. Since that time, we had the survey of residents, and the town commission had relayed to me that they didn't want to take any action. And so the optical speed bars were not installed. And we are still into a place where we're not doing any striping yet on South Sewell's Point Road in the Phase 3 area. But I also want to bring up to the residents, the residents that are here and to the commission, that, the residents that live along that section of South Sewell's Point Road do not want to have lights. They don't want to have, optical speed bars. They definitely have voiced their opinion not only here, but they've voiced it to me. So I just need direction from the commission, since I work for the 5 of you. If you want the optical speed bars in, we'll make those arrangements. If you don't want them in, then I think you need to rescind that motion that was made on, I believe it was February 11th of 2025.
The people that complained about the speeding were actually my neighbors along there. They feel that the speeds have slowed down tremendously, especially with the project, with the speed limit going down. They don't see the speeding, and they do not want the optical speed bars. They were pretty firm about that, and they felt they never even had a say in it. They weren't prepared, and they don't feel it's necessary. And this is going all along Sewell's Point Road. They all feel the same. There's no exceptions. Commissioner Mayfield, go ahead.
Yeah, given all that information, I'd make a motion to rescind the motion to install optical speed bars, even though I kind of thought it was a good idea and wasn't too expensive and was,
No, it might be a good.
Commissioner
idea, just not
Titicus.
for that area.
You have a motion on the floor.
I'm sorry, what is the motion?
to rescind the original motion for optical speed bars to be installed.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Titicus, you had,
Yeah. The minutes of the 11th February meeting reflect the following, and this is a quote. Commissioner Titicus moved to implement optical lines from Margarita to High Point, park police cars around town, lower speed limit during construction to 30 miles an hour, conduct a non-binding poll of all residents with the ability to respond to a questionnaire and the questions to differentiate between North and South Sewell Point Road, and to use the data to move forward. Commissioner Mayfield seconded the motion. Commissioner Fender requested to see a rendition of the optical lines prior to voting on it. Mayor Kurzman stated the motion should include South Sewell Point Road during construction 25 miles an hour. Commissioner Titicus then stated the optical lines were shown in the previous presentation at the workshop as it would reduce speed driving into a curb. He was not in favor of a 25-mile-an-hour reduction. Titicus amended his motion to include moving forward with the optical lines subject to the town manager providing renderings to the appearance. Commissioner Mayfield seconded the amended motion. There being no further discussion, it passed unanimously. At the February 25th meeting, Commissioner Titicus stated that at the last meeting, Commissioner Fender asked the town manager to bring back an example of optical lines for aesthetic purposes. Town manager remarked he was working on it, and I could find no further discussion of optical lines in any of our meetings. So we addressed this, we voted on it. I would like to know, what I've heard from you and what I've heard from the town manager, from the mayor and the town manager is that residents object to it. I would like to know what are the properties along the road, who did you speak to, and what were their objections?
I spoke to Eric Haas. It's going to be an eyesore. I spoke to the guys across the street, Chris, and we have one of the people right here in the room, Scott. He also objected to it. I spoke to Jerry, who's next door to Mr. Haas. I've as you're going further down, George, right before High Point, he doesn't want to see the lines. And there were people that live on the side streets that don't want to come out. And I know my neighbors that live in Margarita did not want to come out to look at optical lines. They feel it would be an eyesore, and once you get used to these optical lines, it's just like when you go over to Costco. They have those optical lines there. At first, when people first see it, they go slow. Once they know it, they zip right through because it's part of your everyday routine. It works short term, not long term. So the regulars that live here, it's not going to, they're familiar with the road, and it's not going to slow them down. And it's not the nicest thing to look at. And I also spoke to the people that live on Mandalay. They don't want to look at the optical lines. So, and you could go up and down the street over there. I spoke with, give me a second, I spoke with Austin, who lives in the first house on the right side. I spoke with, Darian, or what's his name again? You see him coming to the meetings quite often. Dorian, thank you. Dorian, I spoke to the colonel. They were all against it, and I've already named the majority of the people that live in that general area. And it saves the town money. It's money we don't have to spend. We just saved several $1,000s. I don't have a problem
button,
with it.
please.
Go ahead, Commissioner. Frank, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say that sounds like you've talked to some folks, and, I've been asking for the visuals because I'm concerned about the aesthetics, but there is a motion and second on the floor. Besides that, I would just say that if there are parties who are strongly in favor of the lines, I think it benefits us to let it settle for a while instead of just moving forward and doing it, and let them come forward and request it and be a little more vocal about getting it done as opposed to us just going and doing it, especially in the light of there might be some people who could be against it, right? I think we should err on the side of just slowing down for a while.
I haven't found a person in favor of it that lives out there right now, and I think that says enough at this point. And I don't want to push something on a neighborhood that doesn't want something that's going to cost us money that somebody feels would improve it. So why spend money on something that somebody says they don't want? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to push it.
Well, and let someone come forward and actually speak in favor of it as well. That's really what I'm asking.
Yes, correct. Yeah, then we'll go to the roll call. Commissioner Titicus.
I think at the time, if I remember correctly, when we discussed this, it was because there had been 2 accidents on the curb. And is that a tremendous amount? I don't know how many accidents we have in town here. But, you know, there were 2 accidents on the curb and people that were speeding going through the curve.
It was a high-speed chase with an officer, where the car flipped. And the other one was a drunk. Correct, so we had 2. One person was drinking, the other one was being chased by a police officer.
Be careful how you classify people.
Yeah, sorry. An intoxicated individual. Okay, can we have a roll call?
Commissioner Fender?
Commissioner?
Yes, rescind.
Vice Mayor Burrill?
Yes,
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Titicus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Now we go to B, septic to sewer conversion.
Joe? Of our town engineer, Mr. Joe Capra of CapTech Engineering.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Joe Capra with CapTech Engineering, and as most of you know, over the last several years, we've been working on septic to sewer program in the town. Tonight, I'm going to show you a couple slides. Basically, in your agenda, there's basically been a memo that Bob created talking about what we've been doing in the summary and so forth. I'll go through that a little bit lightly. And then I created a memo to also talk about septic to sewer. In addition, I do have several slides that we'll go through that just kind of shows you a picture of some of them and some ideas. Just to start off, I also have James Carnes with me here today. James is a professional engineer. He works with our office and basically has extensive experience in utilities. So he's worked for a water and sewer utility in South Florida. So first of all, relative to the memos that have been created, Bob created a memo and he explained to you that we have a DEP grant. It's for $8.4 million. And essentially, at this point, we've spent it on 2 areas of South Sewell's Point. A 169 section area that basically provides service along South Sewell's Point Road from A1A here southward on South Sewell's Point Road, along South Sewell's Point Road, and into the Phase 3 area of Via Lucinda and the Homewood subdivision. In addition to that, we continue south all the way to the area of Riverview, not Riverview, I'm sorry, Pineapple Lane. From Pineapple Lane south is the current project that is under construction. It just started this week. You probably haven't seen any construction yet, but essentially the contractor, Sunshine Land Design, will be extending those lines southward all the way to High Point, okay? That's for 171 connections. The total is 340 connections, and basically being completed in two phases, parts 1 and 2. And so at this point, what that improvement plan calls for is installing low-pressure force mains, small lines that basically get placed in front of people's properties. They're directionally drilled underneath the road and adjacent to the road. And essentially, what happens is the residents that have those lines in front of them basically will be able to go to Martin County Utilities and basically pay a fee, and that fee ranges between $8,000 to $12,000 connection fee. And what happens is Martin County Utilities will come out and install a grinder station at that location. Basically, they abandon the septic tank, and then they basically provide the grinder station at each of the houses. So essentially, that's what's been approved by Martin County Utilities. That was also what we discussed in 2020, basically 2022 when we started this, the program and so forth. So just so everybody knows, we've had, I believe it's pretty close to I guess they're close to almost 50 people that have signed up totally right at this point, and I'll go through the specific numbers when we get to them. But essentially, we've had a number of people in the 169 unit area hook up, and I think we have about 17 of those 50 people that are planned to get hooked up and so forth. So we have interest from people to hook up that have the lines in front of their property. What I wanted to kind of explain is a couple things, and so I think maybe if we could put Exhibit 2 up, that really just kind of explains, for those that haven't been following septic to sewer, I'll go through it while we're talking about it, but basically, we did complete a study in 2022, and I'll just hold it up, but basically is a study that was done basically called Septic to Sewer Study. And again, this is for South Sewell's Point. And so everybody is reminded of, there's a 706 properties, or we call connections, in South Sewell's Point that currently, other than the 169 that we're working on in 171, that basically totally need sewers. So that's what this study talked about. It looked at various options for septic to sewer. One of them was a grinder low-pressure force main system. The other one was a gravity system and a combination of low-pressure force mains. And then the third one was a vacuum system, okay? It's important to recognize in the study, one of the things that the commission, as well as the residents, were pretty much requiring at that point, and this is again back in 2022, that there would be no mandatory special assessment, and number two, that there would be no mandatory hookup unless residents, of course, had a drain field, inoperable drain field, which according to the state law, you have to hook up at that point. So essentially, those are the two conditions of the and there was a few other conditions in there, but it's essentially those are the items that were important for the commission at that time and the residents that would allow these sewers to be put in. The second thing is when we went to Martin County Utilities, they want to limit us to the 340 connections. And that's been a concern of us, because if you do the other systems, the gravity systems and the vacuum systems, unfortunately what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to charge people to hook up more than what's in the range between $8,000 and $12,000 a connection. So you all know we use that number basically for a couple reasons, but more importantly, Martin County Utilities and Martin County Commission at this point pretty much limit septic to sewer connections. They're trying to keep the price down to under $12,000 connection. So if you look at the studies, the numbers go between 8 and 12. So that's the number we've been trying to stay within for the residential cost of this system. The other part of the system we hope to get grant funding for. The other thing that I would bring to your attention is we actually went after this grant, the grant from the DEP, for the $8.4 million. Before we actually had the study done, we knew roughly what basically we wanted to accomplish, but we weren't certain what system would be preferred by the residents, as well as, you know, how everything would, how the breakdown in costs would be. So I just want you to know there's a relationship between the grant of $8.4 million and the study, but essentially one was done, we went after the money knowing that we wanted septic to sewer, and really the reason was is we wanted to service the residents that are in the low-lying areas, which on the map that's in front of you is actually the purple and gray areas is what we chose at that time, okay? We also wanted to get the sewers in place for the areas where we had currently we were working on the stormwater improvements, because we didn't want to go do the stormwater improvements and have to dig up those areas to put the low-pressure force mains and grinder stations in those areas. So we've been successful in sequencing this to stay ahead of the stormwater project, okay? Anyways, I'm just kind of giving you quite a bit of history. This map that's in front of you now, essentially shows what at one time, we did a poll, okay, and not the current poll, but a prior poll, and basically what this map shows is the interest we had at that time. Okay, this is not the current poll. We still we're still working on that, and I believe that the exhibits on our left over here are what the interest is so far from in the area that we've been talking about providing sewers, gravity sewers. And so essentially what we have is we have 366 residential properties that we need to determine if we're going to go pursue a sewer system for. That's the bottom of my memo, okay? And again, we've been told by Martin County Utilities, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately for the fact, is we could actually finish this grinder system program with the money we have in the grant now, but they insist that we go forward with putting in either a vacuum or gravity system. Again, the problem we have with those two systems, they're great systems. I'm not telling you that we shouldn't do those. I'm just telling you they're more expensive, and it's going to be very difficult, number one, to provide a system that doesn't require mandatory hookup, nor does it also provide basically a special assessment, because the price of those systems are more expensive than putting in just the low-pressure force mains, okay? So that has been our concern. So again, remember, we were told we were trying to put in a system that didn't have mandatory hookup, which I know you can say, well, there's really mandatory hookup when your system fails. That's true. But the fact of the matter is it also doesn't have a special assessment. Again, a couple things to know, and I'm just maybe repeating myself. The current low-pressure force main system implementation basically would be paid for by a DP grant. It's private property owners would pay between $8,000 and $12,000. We call that a customer connection charge package. Martin County currently is offering a $1,000 connection discount if you hook up the service for 1 year. And that money, that $1,000 actually comes from a separate grant to provide help, to motivate people to hook up per se. Again, the way we've set it up with our DEP grant, which is fairly unique, I'll be honest with you, throughout the state, is we've considered the CCP fees, which again are the customer connection package, the $8,000 to $12,000, serves as our local match. So you need to understand the current grant basically has a requirement to match. Basically 50% is paid for by the grant and 50% is paid for by some other source. And in our case, we use the CCP fee to be that 50%, okay? Again, I've told you the number of connections we currently have available. I know I alluded to this. There's 35 residents that have completed the grinder installation with 17 additional installations planned. Again, those are in this map in front of you. That's in the purple area on the map that's on the screen here.
How many are there in total?
What's that?
How many gravity systems are ready in total?
How many gravity systems or grinder systems?
I mean, grinder systems.
Yeah, there's 169 properties that are adjacent to the current low-pressure force mains.
And 39 people are hooking up.
Well, 35 have hooked up, and another 17 are planned to be hooked up. They're in line to be hooked up. So you need to recognize basically since January, when we finished the lines, and basically at that point, the county utility sent out a notice to the people in the purple area and said, sewers are available to your property. So since the beginning of the year, we've had 35 people actually get hooked up, and 17 additionally are
Out of 177.
What's that?
Out of 177.
Out of 169.
Out of 150.
I'm sorry, yeah, I know the numbers get confusing. The first part was 169, the second part is 171. That is under construction, okay? So that's the total of 340 connections that we are limited to by Martin County Utilities, okay? I'm just going to talk a little bit about the 171, okay, just so everybody knows. There's, again, 171 additional properties. Most of them are located between Pineapple Lane and High Point, but we also provide service to the people on Archipelago and the Island Road area, okay? If you notice, other than maybe in High Point itself, most of the properties are in the low-lying areas of the town. That was another reason people wanted us to hook those up first, is because we felt if there was any environmental issue from sewers, they would be captured in this septic to sewer program. And so that's why those were chosen initially. I would let you know, just to get a status of that work. Basically, Sunshine Land Design has been hired to do this. They're going to be extending the low-pressure mains. Their construction started this week, and they're estimated to be substantially complete by May 10th of 2026, okay? So at that point, again, we'll have 340 connections. So where we are today, again, we've got an $8.4 million grant, DEP grant, expended funds based when we get done with the 169 plus the 171 plus all the engineering that was done on that, we'll have spent 2.5 million of the 8.4 million, okay? So we actually have remaining funds of $5.9 million, okay? The issue we have right now, there's two things. First of all, we now have to go to gravity sewer systems or vacuum, which are more expensive. But basically what we have also is DEP acquired these funds through the federal government. Those are ARPA funds. And essentially they have to be spent, the drop dead deadline is June 30th, 2026. And that's the reason we're here tonight, is because we have a very limited time to extend sewer lines to meet that deadline. And it's a drop dead deadline, and our biggest problem with that, well, besides just getting that much work, which is in one of the charts that I'm going to give you in a minute, done in that time, before that time, is secondly, you know, we pretty much, we have to accomplish the work and get it certified, and basically, there's also the second big item on the requirements for the grant is we have to provide a match, okay? And when your construction costs are expensive, okay, which is what is happening with the gravity, and you try to put up a match, the match exceeds the $8,000 to $12,000 a connection. That's our problem, okay? So basically, people are going to be spending more money, and that's why we've been trying to become a little more innovative. At the same time, we really wish that Martin County Utilities would consider all 706 connections to be grinders, but it doesn't look like we're going to succeed in that, but I did put that as one of the options here. Okay, so I guess what I'd like to show you is the next slide. Let's see, let's go back a couple slides, I think. I just want to make sure everybody is aware of a couple things that I provided. Let's go one more, but let's go to the one ahead of that. Let's go back one more. I just want to make sure that everybody understands we did a study in 2022, and essentially this is a copy of just the table of contents, okay? Basically, this is the study we did. There's been a little concern that a study that we had help of, Giffords-Webster did help us on the study. They provided us a lot of data. I have now attached it to this as an attachment of this study so that everybody knows it's within this study. The point is our recommendations in our study done by CapTech, which was supported by Giffords-Webster, specifically considered what the town residents asked for as well as this commission asked for. And so I just want to let you know there was some things that they put into their items that was probably a little more towards a vacuum system, but that is more expensive. And so it's not that we didn't use their study, we use their study quite a bit. They basically have a lot of good data in there, and we are continuing to use their study. But the fact of the matter is they had some recommendations that did not meet what we were given assignment to accomplish with the low pressure, with the how we were going to connect this, where there was no mandatory hookup as well as no mandatory assessment. Again, they did a very good job. I'm not criticizing them. I'm just telling you we used a lot of their data in this report. I've now included it in the report, but I included it in the report mainly because I don't want people to get confused with their recommendations versus what our recommendation is, which is based on what this commission and as well as the residents asked for, and which is those limitations on a special assessment as well as a limitation on a mandatory hookup. Okay, so now I'd just like to go through where we're at. We basically, I've explained to you that we pretty much have a limited time to finish the work and use up the grant funds, or else we're going to have to give them back, which I really hate to do, of course, but obviously we may have to do that. The second thing is, again, we have this deadline. So again, we have $5.9 million in funding, but we can't just spend $5.9 million if we don't have enough match to pay for, to match that 5.9 million. So the first item on the list, go back one more slide, just a little bit, I don't know who's working on it. Bob, you working on it? Okay.
Yeah.
So if you look at the number here, and this is a unit price construction cost estimate that's on the left side of here, okay? And what you see is a description. Now, this is to provide gravity sewers to the remaining total 366 connections. That's what this estimate's about. So basically it tells you installing some gravity mains. It includes lining existing gravity mains that are in the ground today. So I'll just remind everybody, which is kind of unique also, in the 1970s, the commission then required that any new development put in gravity mains, and they were they were not hooked up to anything. They were basically required to put in the lines in the field. So we have numerous areas in town where there are existing gravity mains. The unfortunate part about them is they have been in disrepair and not been used since the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and it was probably as late as Sewell's Meadows, which was in the 2000s and so forth. So essentially, those lines have to be relined, okay? And if we do that, we basically, the benefit of that is basically we use the lines that are out there, we reline them, we don't have to tear up all the roads and so forth. If we have to extend lines, basically we would basically have a cost for extension of lines, and there are subdivisions out there that we still have to put sewer lines in the ground, gravity sewer lines. The other thing that you should note is when every one of these subdivisions put in those lines, they planned on a lift station to serve those lines. So basically what you have is a gravity main that takes the flow of sewage from the house to normally the area along South Sewell's Point Road. Basically at that point there's a pump station. That pump station ties into what is called a pressurized force main that basically takes the sewage from South Sewell's Point to the lift to the county line that's right here at the corner of A1A, and it basically from A1A north on North Sewell's Point Road, it goes through Ocean Breeze and then goes over to the treatment plant in Jensen Beach, okay? So essentially, the lines, there are lines out here that we could line, okay? And there's a benefit to that. Of course, lining of existing lines probably can be done quicker, okay? Lift stations are expensive, okay? The lift stations we're talking about are in the order of about $750,000, and there is a timeline to get that equipment. And so if we're going to do this, we obviously have to go after this pretty quick, okay? Anyways, so I just want you to understand the issues that we have a little bit from a gravity standpoint. So I kind of came up with 3 options to consider tonight. There's multiple ones, but I just wanted to at least get you thinking about them and see what the issues are. First of all, I wasn't expecting us to have a final determination of what you want to do tonight, but I just want you to know we need to make a decision pretty quick if we plan on using this $5.9 million or any large portion of it, okay? So option 1, I just wanted you to understand how big of an issue this is to do with a gravity system. At the bottom here, you can see a number of $15,852,000, okay? That's what it would take to serve 366 connections by gravity, okay? And there's lift stations in there, there's lining in there, there's gravity lines in there, and so forth. You should also know there's probably 10 subdivisions with potential places for lift stations. We are trying to limit the number of lift stations because they cost so much, and the county doesn't want 10 lift stations, 9 to 10 lift stations. They would they would be okay with 4 to 5 lift stations. So we have to combine several of the existing gravity mains out there into less lift stations is what we're trying to do. So anyways, I just want to make sure you know what's in this cost estimate. But just so you know, the grant requirements, okay, first thing is the limitation is basically match, and then work has to be completed by June 30th, 2026. That by itself is a monumental task, okay, to make that happen. The second thing, if we were to, according to the town residents are responsible for funding 50% of that 15,852, if you do that divide that by 2, we need to spend about $7.926 million for a match, okay? That's what technically we need to do. We tried to look at, okay, what are some of the simple items to put in the per lot cost. If you look down there, on lot cost, CCP, it's 33, 34, and 35 on the table. If you add all those up together, basically, it's $2,347,200. That's about $6,413 per lot, okay? Well, if you take that number, okay, and you just put that $2,347,000 in there from the $7,922, I'm just trying to tell you what the match is. You're deficient in your match by $5,578,000. I apologize for all the numbers here, guys, but I'm just trying to tell you, if you look at that, we have a deficit, and basically if you divide that by 366, basically that by itself is you need $15,000 per lot, okay, plus the $6,400 per lot. So that number total is $21,665 per lot. Now, we have never thought about paying a number that high, folks. I know people say that we have and told us we had to, but that's a lot of money. And again, Martin County Utilities isn't planning to do that with their own other areas in town. So we have to figure out a way to get creative to get that number down is what we're trying to do. Again, unfortunately, at 366 connections, that's what it would be, and most likely you'd have to do a mandatory hookup, okay, which we don't want to do, okay? So again, this by far exceeds the current numbers we've been paying for using the grinder system, right? So I think everybody can see that, right? 21,000 per connection versus right now we're paying on an average probably 9,000 a connection. So that's a significant increase to just do these 366 connections. So that is just telling you a total cost number, okay? I just wanted to give you an idea of how big if we did all 360. The fact of the matter is we could not build all of this between now and June 2026. We just don't have the time to do that. Okay, but I wanted to let you know how big the issue was. That's all I wanted to, first of all, tell you. So let's go to the next slide. So we said, okay, so before I get into explaining the next slide, because I'm sure you're probably bored to tears already, basically, I said, well, maybe we should try an option where we do grinder and low-pressure force main expansion, and this is in my memo. Option 1, I think we need to try to make another effort, and this is going to be an effort by residents, because the commissioners have already made an effort to talk to the county commissioners, as well as the staff here has made an effort. We need to see if we can get them convinced to let us continue with grinders, because we can afford that with the grant we have, and we can move it forward, and basically nobody would pay any more than the average we're paying now, okay? So that's my option 1, to go and see if we can change their mind. Now, I know the mayor's tried hard to do this, and it may be a monumental task, and it may not work. So I said, okay, just assume it won't work, because it hasn't worked so far in the last 2 years, so why would I expect it's going to work? So I said, okay, let's look at option number 2. And that's what this option is that's on the board now. And I will tell you, this option number 2, which is 76 Connect, could happen to any couple of other subdivisions, but this seems to work the best here. The reason being the Rio Vista subdivision, and you can see it has its own lift station site. It's actually located at the corner of Lantana Lane, and basically it's where your park is already now. There's actually There is a wet well in there. That wet well is currently being used as a flushing station for the grinders that we have in place now. It has to be replaced. It's not like you're going to be able to use that actual system right there, but you could put a lift station in that location. Essentially, we could get 76 connections. That's what's in the Rio Vista subdivision. And essentially, if you did the numbers, and again, I want to remind everybody, we have grant requirements. Again, match is one of the items, and deadline of June 30th is still the same thing. If you did that, basically, and I'm just going to skip down to the bottom there, basically, the per lot, if we just considered the residents using how much they would normally pay, basically, we'd probably need about $14,000 per lot, okay? So we have to come up with some innovative options on this one, okay? It would get us 76 connections, but we still have to work on getting from, you remember the last one was 21, we're at 14,000 here in per lot, which we want to bring it again down to anywhere between $8,000 and $12,000 a connection. So we're not there yet, okay? But one of the alternatives we have, okay, is if you look at the 340 connections we have now and how much they're paying on an average, there is a certain amount of surplus in there of about $660,000, okay? If we applied that credit to this equation, if you go down to the bottom, you're going to see that there's a number at the bottom there of just under $7,000 a connection. Again, I know there's a lot of numbers in here, and I apologize for that, but essentially, it's going to take some kind of innovative work to get the number down, but that possibly could work for this. Again, people are going to have to pay more than, they're going to probably have to, any one of these systems, we need to figure out the match. So I will tell you, we did talk to DEP. They pretty much said to us, and again, I was with your staff talking to them, you know, again, they're not going to forgive the match. We already know that. They can't change the criteria with the grant, but the fact of the matter is their suggestion is get as much of your lines in as you can. Well, we can't take the chance that someday later they don't ask for that match back, okay? So again, our problem is we need to figure out things like using some surplus that we have, because we can treat all 169, 171, and 76 connections all as one grant, okay? So we can mix and match for that and with a few other items that we have in there. And we hope to get ourselves, of course, below the in the $8,000 to $12,000 range. That would be option 2, okay? Again, and this is just using, at this point, Rio Vista. I'm not saying we couldn't do some other subdivisions or so forth. What we have to be very conscious of is how many lift stations we're building. This one considers building only one lift station, okay? And utilizing existing sewer lines to be relined, okay? That should be able to be accomplished in the time frame we have. If we go and do other subdivisions, we would have to do more lift stations. And again, we would probably want to look at something that has to be lined, Lewis, something that has to be lined as well as gravity extensions, because that takes a little longer to do. Anyways, that's the one option, and I just put that on the board just so you're thinking about these are the things that we need to consider on this. I'm going to go back to the last slide. I think the next slide is really just the map, okay? What you see on this map is what is squared by option 2 is labeled there on the St. Lucie River side of the peninsula, and what is outlined in the red is really the connections we're talking about. Basically, what I showed you is the location of the lift station. It's at the Lantana Park. That's in the blue star. That's also where our that's also where a station we use to flush out. That's a flushing station, okay? Because you have a cost also for doing the flushing. So there could be a credit we could take also on that and get rid of the flushing station and also then and use that same area for the lift station, okay? Because the lift station will provide the same benefit as a flushing station. So there is a savings that you could have on that, which we could also claim as a match number. anyways, that's what we're talking about. If we were to move farther to the south with the next few subdivisions like Pineapple Lane and Riverview and Palm Road and Kingston Court and Oakwood and so forth, again, unfortunately, that's going to be a lot more work, and it's going to be difficult to get all of those items in. But I showed a start where we currently have a lift station site at the end of Riverview on the map, just to give you an idea of where those are located. So I've gone through two options, and then the last option, which you can probably guess I'm not for, but the last option is we just give the money back. And basically, I would hate to see us do that, but at the same time, we can't commit the town to having to not find the money for the match, and then basically the town residents would have to pay for that in some other fashion. And I just want you to know over time, I've been trying to keep you out of the water and sewer business. We're come to a point now we have to make a decision. Either we're going to stay out of the sewer business, which I hope we can, but if we can't convince, we're going to have to come up with another option to utilize. And there's other grants coming down the line, but the ones that we have applied for, just so you know, they're currently asking for mandatory hookup. They don't want to give us the money without a mandatory hookup. And Bob explained in his memo, which I'll let him talk about, basically an option to maybe get around that. But the fact of the matter, our typical position has been no mandatory hookup and no mandatory assessment. And again, unfortunately, we may have to get into that realm when we start doing, when we do some of these other options. So I then put on my memo, I just want to let you know, I didn't put it on the board. I wanted to kind of make sure you all reminded yourself of how many projects you do have under construction at the same time next year. It's pretty monumental for this town, and there's a lot of stuff going on. Phase 3, Phase 2, we'd like to hopefully get started on that for the stormwater section, subject to sewer Part 2, subject to sewer Part 3. All those things are in there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I know knew from last week or last month, we talked about, the cash flow issue. Mariah's doing a monumental job trying to keep all the balls in the air and so forth, but those are always a concern on any of this. So again, that's kind of what I wanted to bring to your attention. Again, I realize it's a lot to digest in one meeting, but I think we need to talk about this. We need to figure out another option to figure out how to pay for this, and it may not be with this grant, it may have to be in a future grant, but it doesn't look, I think we've kind of exhausted as far as we can go with the current program. So anyways, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
The only thing I'm going to say right now is when we started this project, we said it would be non-mandatory. And I'm going to continue with that, to keep it non-mandatory. Once you get into the gravity or vacuum, it's mandatory. You automatically hook up with that pipes in front of your house, you don't have a choice. And for that kind of money, I'm not going to put that on anybody. That would be an absolute wrong thing to do. To tell somebody you got to pay $30,000 to hook up and it's mandatory now. Especially there are people that can't afford that. They don't need a loan either from the town. And the town hasn't been forthcoming. Even when I talk to them, they're telling me people in Rio Vista hooked up to the vacuum, over in Port Salerno they hooked up, and in Golden Gate. And I'm saying, wow, that's pretty impressive that these people that are living in poor communities or poorer communities, not, having, where they come with this kind of money. Oh, they got it, they could do it. And I come to find out they all got CRA money. They got the hookup for free, and which is given to the poorer neighborhoods. So yeah, they're getting the free sewer, and it's most of the homes, 80% are rentals. So the owners are benefiting. And yes, it was mandatory, but I just, if we want to take a vote, that's what I was always for, letting the people vote on this. If you vote for it, the first thing I'd like to do is the people that want to hook up, let them hook up wherever the pipe may go along that way. I'm 100%, if somebody wants something, go get it. But I don't trust, if I were to have a gravity system going past my house and I don't want sewers, and suddenly they're going to come in, I can't believe anything anybody says anymore from the county at this point. I don't want to put a gravity system in front of anybody's house. I think what's going to happen within the next year or two, they're going to find out it's mandatory and they're all going to be hooking up and they're going to have to pay a lot of money. And as I said before, some of them can't afford the conversion. And I've spoke to a former commissioner when I called him directly. This was probably just a little over a year ago. I was told that the people here can afford it and it should be mandatory, and he will not support anything that's not mandatory. He felt very strong on that. He goes, that's why my mom had to move out of there, because she can no longer afford it. I go, that's not an answer. And it's not acceptable, because these people have lived here for a long time, and they shouldn't have to be forced into something they don't want. And that's something, when I ran for office, I'm going to stay with it. I'm not going to have anything ever mandatory. And that's what you're doing. You're throwing something, you're shoving it down their throat, unless we take a vote, and the majority of the vote, and they say yes, the majority say yes. And if you don't answer it, to me, it's like a no vote. And that's the only way I'd even entertain that. And I've always asked for a vote, and we've never had one. And I think each individual should be able to go ahead and say they want it, they don't want it, wherever they live, and then it would go to rest. And this whole controversy would have been over years ago if we would have done this, and we either would have had sewers or we wouldn't have had sewers. But at this point, I feel very strong that either A, you take a vote, or B, we let the people hook up to the grinders, whoever we have, we do it. And then when the state, whether it be Senator Harrell or any of our state representatives that fought for us to get these loans, they ask what happened. Well, the county said this is all we could have. Originally, they said we could hook up all of Sewell's Point with grinders once upon a time. Now they keep taking and making it less. So I just want people that are forthcoming and mean what they say. And at this point, the only way I would go for anything further beyond this is if we have the people vote and it's a mass majority. Commissioner Titikas.
A couple questions, Mr. Kemper.
Excuse me, Mayor, did we want to do public comment first?
Oh, I am so sorry.
That's all right.
I just got,
Commissioner Titikas?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
yeah, let me start off, and I apologize because I got a little carried away there. Charles Geary and Becky Geary, please come on up.
Hello,
Hi.
my name is Chuck Geary. I live at 10 Riverview Drive. I have a failing septic tank. It's been failing for years. I've talked to your engineer, I've talked to your manager, I've talked to some of you. From what I understand, we're not included in the phases 1 and 2. We're in number 3, and is that correct? So we were looking for options for 10 Riverview Drive. We're perfectly willing to get our own sewer if that's what we need to do, but it's failing. We need some options and some kind of timeframes. You know, if we're going to ever get to phase 3, I think there's, 355 people that are not included in what we're talking about right now. They need options too. So if we're not going to get any sewer anytime soon, we want to hook up ourselves. We'll get our own system. But the last thing we want to do is hook up and then be told that now it's coming through in a year and you're going to need to hook up. So we're really looking for some discussion of phase 3, some timeframes and some options and some suggestions.
I know Riverview was one of the streets that really needs it bad because of the water issues
Correct.
they have. It's very obvious.
Correct.
And I can't give a timetable. I don't know if anybody can right now. Joe, can you give a timetable, or?
It depends on,
That's what we're discussing, right?
yeah, it depends on what we're discussing. You know,
It's kind of difficult when you get a timeframe. I mean, first of all, I've talked to Mr. Gary before. I know they're very excited or interested in getting sewers. But again, that's why I mentioned the reason we put Rio Vista on here is to kind of show you an example. The Riverview subdivision, and that map shows it probably better. There's quite a few people that do want sewers there. There is a gravity main in the road that would need to be hooked to a lift station, okay? Could we move some, could we put that lift station in and rehabilitate those lines? That's a possibility. I did not look at that. I'm just telling you, I need to know what kind of direction you guys want to take, in the sense of, because David just said he wasn't interested in gravity at all, so that was pretty clear from his discussion. So I'm just saying, it's not that we can't do something, but we need to do something now, okay? Because we got a lot to do if we're going to try to hook that one up, as well as the Rio Vista subdivision.
Let me go back and say something. If the people up and down Riverview said, we're good with gravity and everybody wants it, I'm okay with it. And I know that everybody I've spoken to on Riverview at one time or another has said they want sewers that I've spoken with, and I wouldn't want to deprive them of that if that's what they want, and they're willing to go into the gravity system. So if they decide, I have no problem with that, because it's 100%. So I don't have a problem if somebody says, let's just do it. But you have 100% of the people, nobody's getting hurt.
You have to build a lift station now.
Yes, we have grants for that.
That's what we use the grants for the grants and rehabilitate the lines. But the problem is that we have to figure out how much you have to pay for a connection fee for the match. That's the thing, and so that's what we need to talk about. But again, that one seems to be quite a few people want to hook up. That's our problem. If people don't hook up, and then who's going to pay the match? That's our problem.
Let's go through the rest of the comments.
Mrs. Kimes.
2 to 3 years that the numbers didn't work.
Well, I don't know if I'd say it that way. But
Well, I guess we thought we were going to talk MCU into more.
Mrs. Kimes, you could talk now. I am so sorry.
Diane Kimes, 2 Riverview Drive. I just want to remind everybody that we should have been the second in line. And I'm sure you all saw the flooding. It was worse this year than it's ever been. We count by the number of homes as the water creeps up going north, and it is beyond Mike and Michelle's house, almost to the Geary's house. The water tables were so high. Right now, it is a sanitation issue. It smells horribly. I know that it's fecal matter, it is gross. I pick up my dog and we, cut through yards to walk the roads. But as I told Mr. Daniels about, it's not just about sewers, it's about resilience, and it's about trying to figure out how we can get this water off the roads, because I don't know if it's coming from the north, but hopefully septics will make a difference, but it is untenable. And it's, like I said, it's the worst. And I don't know if it's because it's a bowl, because this is higher and this is higher and we're in the middle, but it is the worst it's ever been, and it's daily, it's disgusting. I can't even take my car out during king tide. So I hope that the commission has the will to do something, and I think everybody that has to go down Sewell's Point Road this past weekend, they understood what it's like, and it's not just a few people, it's everybody. And those septic systems, especially if they're failing, they're full of fecal matter, and it's going right on the roads, it's going in our rivers. So it's time, and whether it's mandatory, it should be mandatory. I think we're long overdue. This is 2025. I grew up with sewers in the 60s, so, and we are surrounded by water. So if you don't like it, move. Well, I've been here since '94, so.
Okay. Ladies,
Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Piccolo.
Very emotional issue. I've been here 25 years. 10 of those years, we have been talking about sewers. I go back to when Paul Luger was around. If this was such a desired outcome for the residents of Sewell's Point, people would have been up in arms years ago. Maybe there are, I feel sorry for this gentleman who can't decide whether he should fix his septic tank, because then he's going to be forced, mandatory, to go to a sewer system. And I really feel for you. I'm sure you want to fix your septic tank. It's not a matter of, if there was such a desire of the first 166 people, I already had this conversation with you guys. The first 166 people, I am one of those people. I don't have skin in this game anymore because I'm stuck. I cannot fix my septic tank if I wanted to. I am speaking for the people who now have been listening all this time to, if it's mandatory, Sewell's Point won't do it. Well, get real. Martin County Utilities is not going to make an exception for Sewell's Point. If you go for those 366 homes and it's not a grinder system, somebody's going to get a whopping bill and find out that they don't have a choice. Yeah, they don't have to connect to the sewer, but they are going to have a mandatory assessment on their tax bill. Sewell's Point is acting like a bunch of spoiled children. Martin County will not change their opinion. If you go to something other than the grinder, the people who are going to be affected by that are going to be assessed. I feel like I am in the twilight zone. I heard Tom Pack so many times saying, if it's mandatory, we won't do it. Well, now it's mandatory, and your guys are talking about doing it anyway. It is not right, especially for gentlemen like this who really want to fix their septic tank and don't want to be charged twice. It's pathetic what's going on here. 10 years of this. Literally 10 years. If there was a groundswell of a desire for the people in Sewell's Point to have a sewer, they would have voiced their opinion. They haven't. It's very frustrating that we are still man-hours talking about man-hours for residents, man-hours for staff, man-hours for commissioners, and we're getting nowhere. And yes, Dave, I thank you for what you said. Absolutely, I thank you for what you said. Everybody else has to stand up. If you vote yes for this, you're voting for your own selfish reasons, because the town is not behind this. Otherwise, there would have been a great demand of the first 166 homes to connect to the sewer, and we're barely getting, what, 20%, 30% people? And this has been, I got that letter in November. It's almost a year. If there was a strong desire, everybody would have connected already. It's really criminal that we are still talking about this. Get over it, send the money back, and let's just move on.
Thank you. Bonnie Flint.
Well, I just wanted to bring up at the beginning of this section 4, but here we are, hopefully nearing the end for the evening, that just, I'm glad it's been pointed out that this map in the Giffords-Webster report is old, and that's only 1/3 of the new map there. Bob, you want to hold up the other two pieces you were going to put up? I mean, that's nice to see some things in detail, but it's all over the place, folks. And I don't know how we can make a decision or ask you all to, as our commissioners, overnight, when we don't even have the data back from the umpteenth survey we've done. And that's not expected to next week. So my desire and thought was, I think shared by some others too, that you need to wait till you've waited this long, more than 3 years, knowing that we were in trouble financially to afford doing the whole neighborhood on an equitable basis. That's another huge issue.
This is the other section.
That, yeah, well, if we could put them up on the wall, but to come, I guess. But I think you got to wait till next week. I guess Mariah says we're largely tabulated now, but shake out the figures. Where are we? How many do you need to have to move forward? We seem to do surveys without benchmarks as to what it takes to move forward or not. This deserves some hard thought. But what's disconcerting, and Joe, my God, he's worked and reworked everything here. But we saw this 3 years ago. We knew we didn't have permission to have grinders throughout. There was hope that, you know, and you certainly have given it the college try and others. But we don't have the money to provide sewers throughout Sewell's Point. And you've given sweetheart deals to some of the people. You can't turn around and assess the final 30% when you've given it away at X number of dollars to the others. That's not equitable. It's not right. And it's not the right thing to do. So, you know, this has been a predicament, but it's not new in the last week or two. We've never had the solution to this problem. And so like Ronnie says, how can you keep pushing something that doesn't want to resolve? I don't know, folks. I'd like to think I'm a clear thinker. You know, Dave, you certainly, you understand, I think, the equity amongst homeowners. And this was a problem when we started dividing into little pieces, each neighborhood having a different deal. And here we are with a lot uncovered. I've spoken too long. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. All right. Commissioners.
I believe I had some questions before you started on the public comments. Mr. Capra, I have a few questions for you. Am I to understand that what you're saying is for 366 homes with the gravity system, that it pencils out to roughly $21,655.90 per home or per lot as an assessment?
That's correct. Let's put it up there because I want to make sure you understand. That's why what makes this difficult is to try to figure out, and again, this is you were there a minute ago.
Yeah, that's where it is.
Yeah, the only way I can, and you want to pull it out just so that it gets to the numbers a little bit clearer. So in this on-lot cost, the CCP, what could change that, okay, is we used what would be the pump, getting rid of the septic tank, which is on-lot cost CCP. So we only use 3 items there, okay? We would probably, the only way I can see getting the number down is some of the items in the upper area, which is construction related, could be shared by people, which would basically give us a bigger number for this instead of the 6,413 as well.
But I'm asking what you're presenting tonight.
Right.
Is under 2, the 4th paragraph. It says per lot assessment equates to $21,655.90. Is that correct?
That is a correct number.
Okay.
That is a correct number, but I'm trying to tell you, there's variables in this. That's why everything we do tends to kind of, we'd have to do different, we'd have to make a different arrangement on the CCP to make that adjustment. And is that going to be acceptable to the residents, and that's all I'm trying to say. This is a different animal than the grinder system, which we were pretty much set on what items we could pay for with that, is all I'm trying to say.
And then, if you were to do just the Rio Vista subdivision, would you mind flipping up to that, Mr. Daniels? The Rio Vista subdivision, and again, I'm under number 2, final paragraph, the per lot assessment equates to $14,000 a lot. Right now, that's our best guesstimate.
Best guess, and again,
Okay.
the number that's a variable is at 6,413.
Then I have another question, and that is it the current policy of Martin County Utilities that if you connect to a gravity or a grinder system, you must, if it's installed, you must connect to it because they need the flow?
It's not mandatory for theirs. They basically do not make people hook, they
I'm
have the
talking
right.
about strictly the gravity and the vacuum system.
Yeah, they do not make a mandatory hookup as far as I know, okay? They've told me they don't make anybody mandatory hookup to any system that they have, whether it's grinder, gravity, or vacuum.
Well, that seems to be in conflict with the Martin County Utilities website, which basically says, and I can't give it to you verbatim because I don't have it in front of me, but it says basically not that your system fails, but that if they put it in, you've got to hook up to it. But that's...
And I do believe that you're right, and they're going to make every effort to get people to hook up, because as you're correct, the lift stations need flow to operate, right? Which means you need customers. The vacuum system needs customers, okay? And they will charge you a mandatory assessment for that, because they basically need those systems paid. They can't just go spend, again, I believe they're getting more contractors to bid their projects now, again, from before, but they used to be like $2.5 million. You're not going to go put a $2.5 million structure out there, buy a lot and all that stuff, and not have somebody use it. That's the problem. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So what you're talking about is probably correct. I'm not trying to deny, Frank, what you're saying. I'm just trying to tell you, they're pretty adamant about the fact they do not require mandatory hookup, is what they've told me on several occasions. But that's a choice, and I think, Bob, you looked that up in the rules because the state has a requirement that they've labeled, but local municipalities do not have to follow that requirement, is what I understand. So,
The one providing the service.
right, the person provides. Right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, and then there is a state law that says if you've been notified within 12 months, you are required to hook up.
I know there's that, and again, the local municipality or the local provider, service provider, can make a decision not to make it mandatory.
Would it be a safe assumption that the reason why the state has changed its requirements that hookups are mandatory if you get grant money is because they want to force the municipalities to have everybody hook up?
I would say that's probably a good choice. I mean, I don't disagree with you there.
Okay.
They don't want to put that investment out there and nobody hook up, right?
Yep. And then I have a question in terms of, you made a statement earlier that there would be no mandatory hookup unless your drain field failed. That really wasn't stated here until we were able to get some clarification from Mr. Amersham. And he was the one that basically made that statement. But up until that point in time, I believe this commission and the people on this dais made the statement that there won't be any mandatory hookups.
No, well, I'm going to correct you on that because actually Commissioner Mayfield, I remember her specifically saying, what you're telling me is there is no mandatory, but there is mandatory when your system fails. She was very specific about that.
Eventually mandatory.
Yeah.
Eventually mandatory, but that was after I brought Amersham's memo to this group and said there was a, that
It was always just people disagreed on the definition of mandatory, and so people were talking about what was correct in their own mind. whether everybody agreed that they were talking about the same thing was what you're talking about. But I always understood it exactly as it was, whether they were saying mandatory hookup or eventual mandatory.
When I sat in the audience, I heard something different. So, final thing is the map that you showed. What's the date of that map? And when was that poll taken? Though, if you flip to the last slide, Mr. Daniels.
Yeah, I think it was that about time. You're absolutely right. I was trying to find the date, to be honest with you today, but I couldn't find the date. Yeah.
So this was the poll that was taken in the town of 2022 to where there was no option as to whether or not you didn't want to hook up. Is that what you're referring to?
There was a, yeah, I don't think it was in 2022. I think it was after that, because I think it was noted before, actually before you got on the board, but that they wanted to know what is the interest. And so we took that poll, and quite frankly, we started the questionnaire that you've been using currently with a form, which we'll give you. We can show you that form. It didn't ask the same questions, but it asked a lot of the same questions.
Okay. And then as you pointed out, so far, we've had 30% of the people of the 169 residents have hooked up to the grinder system, which is a pretty low participation rate. And when you check with Martin County Utilities, in North Sewell's Point, to where it's been available for much longer, I think the participation rate is less than 50%. And you have two subdivisions that hooked up in bulk, and so when you factor them out, you have about an 8% participation rate.
I will tell you, and again, I've been told this by Martin County Utilities, they were impressed with the amount of connections we did get initially on the north phase, okay? And as much as it may sound like it doesn't seem like that many, it usually takes a while for people to get into these systems. And quite frankly, a lot of them are based on when their septic tank drain fields fail. So, I mean, the problem we have, as you know, is just like Mr. Gary, he's going to go put that system in, and he's going to be satisfied for 20 years. He's never going to hook up to the system. So that it's a catch-22. I don't want to disagree with what you're saying. I'm just trying to tell you, we've actually had a pretty good rate of hookup according to other subdivisions in the county, according to Martin County Utilities at that time.
I would encourage Mr. Geary to put in an advanced treatment unit, which basically is accepted as an exception to having a mandatory hookup. But, thank you.
Vice Mayor.
So, I just wanted to say that the septic to sewer conversion in North Sewell's Point went pretty smooth. And you're right, only about 50% really hooked up. But as far as the mandatory and not mandatory, we were told, and we have it in writing from Martin County in North Sewell's Point, that you will only be forced to hook up if your system fails. Other than that, you're not going to be forced to hook up. Now, I'm going back to, when did we start that project with North Sewell's Point Road? 2018?
Correct, yeah.
2018. And it was that way then. So I don't know what you heard, but it was that way then. And Martin County's still saying the same thing now.
Yeah,
Pretty much, only if your septic tank fails, they're going to force you to hook up, if it's available.
I stood as a citizen at this podium, and I asked this commission, and Mr. Tompeck, would we be required to hook up, within a period of time, and I was told there would be no mandatory hookups. And then I came back, and because I posed a series of questions, they never got answered. I came back and asked, when are you going to answer the questions? And I still haven't had them answered.
Well, I wasn't here. Mr. Tompeck beat me in an election, so he was here, and that was up to him to answer the question. Okay, The answer that I got from Martin County and the answer that I've been getting from Martin County has been, you're only going to be forced to hook up if your system fails. That's what they've been saying.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Yes. Before I say my points, I just want to preface, and I think most people know, that I'm a big supporter of sewer. One of the reasons I got involved, I've been consistent, and I would love to see all of South Sewell's Point connected to sewer. And just a few little points, the mandatory hookup debate besides the eventual mandatory versus mandatory. There's also the idea, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I don't imagine they call the police and physically force you, somebody come and actually connects your pipes in your yard. I think the mandatory is, should you agree to follow the rules, you will do it. I don't know what the consequences are if somebody just absolutely refused to hook up to sewer to pay for it. I don't imagine they'd go pay for it themselves. So there's that debate too, how mandatory is mandatory. And I wanted to thank Joe for the presentation because I think it was well done. It was thorough, and I like the idea of the options, so thank you for your hard work on that. I think we made a lot of progress. I think we've done well. It's been painful and long, but there is progress with these 340 people being able to connect should they want to or when their septic tank fails. So I think the town should be proud of that. Personally, my first option, I like option one. I've liked it forever. I would love to do, for everybody who wants sewer, to do a full court press for the county because they could just do one little vote on their dais and all these problems, most of these problems would be solved. And it really is just a policy thing, that, as far as I know, with all the conversations we've had over and over and all these discussions. So that's personally what I'm going to try to do, and I'm going to try to get people to help. And that, I would love to do that. As for, the gravity, we don't do anything, then it just gets handed over to the county. And based on all the conversations I've had with the county, I don't think they're going to get to Sewell's Point and feel like they want to go, I can't say for certain, but they don't feel sorry for Sewell's Point, and they're not going to go try to get money to make it cheaper for us. So it could very well be you wait for the county and, you get your septic tank, and whenever that comes around, they're going to be like, okay, now you're getting assessed, and then we have a lot less say in the matter, and we're just subject to that. So that's what I think the future holds, because even our district commissioner is very intent on getting people hooked up to sewer, at least based on one of the meetings I listened to. She is very pro-sewer with the intent of vacuums and gravity. They're kind of into that. So again, I don't know what will happen in the future, but this is just my opinion from what I have heard, that I don't think they would have a problem with assessing us for vacuums and gravity here in Sewell's Point. So I like the idea that we take control and do what we can. I understand the 366 sounds crazy and we could never get it done. That would be my dream with a reasonable cost. I don't know if we could get more grants. This is not going to happen, but if you had grants. I don't like the idea of a mandatory assessment at all, but I said once on the dais, and I've said it to people in conversation, a reasonable mandatory assessment that goes on your property tax bill to get sewer is not something that I'm against. I could see myself voting for that should the situation be right. I'm not saying I'm voting for the $21,000, so let's put that on the record. But I just think it deserves a conversation. So in terms of moving forward, I think I'm going to be outnumbered, but I like the idea of the Rio Vista, and I didn't realize, looking at this map, which I know the results are old, Riverview in that area wanted it a lot too, but I don't like the idea of sending the money back. I think that's crazy. That's one of the reasons I got involved too, is us sending money back to the state or to whoever when we have money available to get projects done. I'm very pro-projects. And I understand the concept of taking a vote, but getting 100% of people to agree on this topic won't happen. So the idea that I'll do it if we get 100% agreement, that's just like a politician's dream, and then we don't have to make hard decisions. And what are my other comments? I did want to say, I think that hookup, when you say the number is low, I'm very pro-sewer. I can't wait to get sewer. But if my septic tank's working, I'm going to wait a little bit because we got a good deal. It just shows that we got everybody a good deal. It doesn't show that people don't want it. I think people are usually pretty smart with their money. Why would they go when they have the option of waiting with their septic tank still working? So I don't think that's necessarily a reflection of how much you like sewer. It's a reflection of how well is your septic tank working, and you don't want to spend the money right now, which makes sense to me. So that's kind of all I have to say for now, but I know Joe had worked in some nice numbers, options on that second thing. If you could finagle the numbers and get that assessment pretty reasonable. No, no, not that one. Yes. Under the alternatives, the idea of this 6,000, whatever. So that's the thing. I know you said we didn't have to make a permanent decision, but I would like to look at that in more detail. That's it.
I did receive a cardigan from Mrs. Piccolo. Please come on.
I've been involved with this for a really long time, so I know things that maybe other people don't know. And for the benefit of the people in the audience and the people who are listening, this is a self-inflicted project in Sewell's Point. Had we not raised our hand and went to Martin County Utilities and said, we're interested in sewer, we are an entity of our own. We would not have been required by Martin County to connect to the sewer. This is all because commissioners and other people raised their hands and said, let's do this. We are just literally wasting our time on something that wasn't mandatory.
I will say something, and there are people in this town that really do need sewer. And I don't think it's, at the same time, I don't think it's mandatory, but I don't think I should be depriving somebody that has their lawn underwater every major storm, especially when they're right next to the river. That's, to me, is common sense. There's a right situation and a wrong situation. You're in a drier area. You don't have any, you keep a good septic. I know there are people that don't pump. Nobody's ever seen a truck in front of their house pumping. And it was up to me. I'd say I want to see, make it mandatory every 2 years that everybody pumps. I would love to. I don't know if we can legally. Can we, council?
I have to look at that, whether a city could, a town could compel people to have a mandatory pump out every 2 years. That's probably a Department of Health issue, my guess.
There was an option put out to the residents in 2017, and nobody really was for it.
Yeah, and
Okay, because they wanted it every 5 years, and you turned it down. So, I mean,
There was a law passed in Tallahassee that we were all going to have to clean out our septic tanks. And when the next regime came in, they reversed it.
yeah, so
That's a fact.
Yes.
Google it.
And the other thing that I will mention is we had a resident who sold their house that was actually on East High Point Road. Our building inspector came along. They want to know, where do they go to pump? And this tank, when they bought the house, wasn't pumped for a couple of years. The tank was bone dry. It was going into the lagoon right behind the house. For years, they were flushing their toilet into the river. So there's this, and this is what we get. And because there is no oversight right now, and that bothers me more than anything, is that we're actually flushing our toilets into our river, which is precious. We're all moved here because we want to be near the water, not that we want to flush our toilets into the water. So I understand there are people who live higher up where it's high and dry, and they have a lot of soil beneath them, and, you know, they're going to be fine. People like Commissioner Titikus, he has an aeration system, which is just as good as its own sewerage department, and it really does work. I'm 100% on board with the aeration system. I know they work. I've always been a proponent of them. But I don't feel, and I know most of the people that live along Sewell's Point Road should be hooked up because they're right next to the river, and that includes the Archipelago, Island Road, and right along High Point. It's silly not to, but I also want to know who is not pumping their septic tanks out every 2 years. I know I have a neighbor right around the corner from me. He told me he never pumps it, and what he does, he stirs it around and it goes into the earth. And, you know, this is kind of where I have a problem. And we're not doing ourselves any favor, we're not doing our community any favors by not asking. I would like to see if it's possible, and I'm going to ask council, if we could make it mandatory that anybody that lives in Sewell's Point would have to pump out every 2 years. If you live along the water and you're not doing it, I'd like to see it every year.
To do with occupancy. People who live alone, one person in a household, doesn't need it every 2 years.
But I don't know if they have guests. So at the same time, or what they're spilling into it, I mean, I just feel strong about that. I pump mine every year, Well, I have to have other commissioners backing, and I also have to know with council if it's legal. If it's illegal, I can't do it. And I feel strongly about this. I'm going to take commissioner comments. Commissioner Frank Titicus.
Just a comment, when you go to this Giffel-Webster report that Mr. Capper used, they recommended option 6, okay? And if you read option 6 on page 98, it says use a gravity system with repairs, and then it says on the peninsulas and the islands that are difficult to serve with vacuum and gravity, use an LPS system. So we, in essence, as a town, have taken care of the low-lying areas and hopefully have dealt with the issues that Mrs. Kimes is talking about. And so the people that are in the low-lying areas along South Sewell's Point Road have the opportunity and the option to hook up to the the grinder system. And so you got 366 other homes that are not impacted by that are at higher elevations. And I don't think that we ought to jam it down anybody's throat. It should not be mandatory. This group turned around and said from the beginning, it will not be mandatory. And we will not assess people. So you're welcome to reverse yourselves, but I won't be voting for it.
Town manager.
I just wanted to make 2 comments, because I've listened to everyone for the 3 years that I've been here. We are the stewards of our environment. And I do take Mrs. Kimes' statements that she made, because you have to realize the flooding issues with king high tides and has gone further up the streets than the county has allowed us to service with grinders. Originally, when they started talking, they were looking at 400 grinders, and it was 360, and it just seemed like we went back instead of progressing and looking at all the flooding that was in the area appropriately. They stuck with the policy. And so, I tried my hardest to get them to deviate somewhat on their policy so we could cover more of the flood-prone areas. But I don't think we're doing 100%. Maybe we're doing 75%. But is that 25% that we're missing worth what the damage that we do when somebody pumps into the river because their system's failing and it's pumping directly into the aquifer? I mean, we just have to realize that nobody's going to fix these problems for us, and hopefully the residents here will have their children and their grandchildren and their grandchildren's grandchildren living here in our town. And this is a great place to be. I know everybody that's here loves living here, and I just feel that somewhere along the line we have to look at solving the problems. And again, it's not my policy, it's the policy of this board. I did want to proffer just one other idea. Again, not forcing the issue with the current situation with mandatory or not, but if we went to seek future funding for a system that we could go with that the county approves of looking at maybe doing a mandatory connection if you transfer your deed. So like if you sell your home, and then you're passing it on to somebody else, but at least the commitment that you've made about not having a mandatory connection with the current residents. But again, I'm not proffering anything. We're, like you said, I'm throwing out ideas. I'm throwing that one out to you all, and that's totally within the realm of what you all have to decide.
I will make one other comment. I actually go to River Road probably once a week, including Mrs. Keim's house, to see somebody's entire property underwater. And it's sad, and that's how somebody has to live. The water in front of her house is over knee-high. On her lawn, yeah, I've seen it up to 2 feet. There's no reason anybody should have to live like that. And she's correct. These septic tanks are not, they're underwater. They're a couple of feet underwater, so everything that's in that septic, it's there, and you are walking in fecal water. So for somebody to say that it's not necessary, that road should be mandatory. It shouldn't even be a question, because it's just downright disgusting. You have the same thing along parts of Kingston, Palm Road, the beginning homes over there. Everything's underwater, and if you're on Sewall's Point Road along there, all those homes, their front lawns are underwater. Right next to the Hammerhead, that house, and going all the ways north, they're all underwater. It just fills right up. You heard Steve, who lives next to the Hammerhead, came in here and he told us what he experiences. It's terrible, and it's not a nice way to live. You put millions of dollars into a house, and you're underwater, and your septic's underwater. And it does pollute the river, whether we want to believe it or not. And it's something we should consider if somebody sells a house, that at that time we could tell the whatever it might be, that maybe they do hook up mandatory, because that person no longer lives there and it's no longer their responsibility. And I'm strongly in favor of trying to keep our rivers clean, whatever it's going to take there. And that's a good part of it. And the other part is mandatory pumping. I want to see it. I'm going to keep hitting that over and over, and I do want to know if it's legal. If it is, I would like to have a vote on that. Put a new ordinance in where it's coming every 2 years. It's going to be mandatory. And this way we know if the tanks, and then we get a copy of the pump in Town Hall, and we know that these people are pumping. And anybody that hasn't pumped in the next 2 years after that, we're going to either fine them and tell them they have X amount of days to pump, and they get fined each day that there isn't a pump that's taking place. And this is the only way we can really know things are being kept clean. And is there any way we could expedite the sewer pipes to go to Riverview and Palm Road and Kingston and even Oakwood? Oakwood's becoming a little bit of a lake, right up to Commissioner Fender's house. I got pictures of it on my phone. And
That's true.
And I hate to see that. It shouldn't be happening. Not with, this community doesn't deserve it to live like that. Go ahead, it's just, I'm okay with it.
Review, but where Diane lives, there is stormwater drainage right across from her house. Where we live, there's stormwater drainage right there. So like you're saying, and when those king tides come up, where do you think that is going but into the stormwater drainage and right into the river?
That's correct.
The whole road. So you really need to look at Riverview and get your engineers out there. Look where those stormwater drains are. It's not good.
The residents there have pulled me over there no less than probably 50 times during the over 7 years I've been a commissioner. So I see it, I've witnessed it. I see all the junk, and I've been there to witness the smell many times. It's not very pleasant. And that's why I wanted to know if there's a way we could expedite those people to get sewer, if we could bring the pipes further up immediately so that they could be on a grinder, whatever it takes. Is there any possibility? If we have all that grant money, why can't we put pipes in? Can we?
Getting the
ask-
county's okay.
What's that?
You would have to get the county's okay to exceed
We
the
could say it's an-
340
I
connections.
got the pictures on my camera.
I understand.
And-
Are you talking about grinder? Because they won't do any more grinders.
Well,
You're talking about,
we should factor them in for grinders. They need it more than anybody. Those roads need grinders worse than anybody, and I can't see going any other direction right now. Plus, also, the grinders, when you're low, when you sit low, the grinders are better in that sense, so I'm being told. The grinders will pump the water out, it's low pressure, and you have a lot of trees in that area, and you're not destroying the trees because the pipes are more flexible compared to when you use a gravity system. The pipes are solid, it involves ripping up a lot more property. And you can read that in the Giffords report, which I did. And I would like to know if we could possibly talk to the county, if we could move that up, if our town engineer, council, legal, somebody, if they could reach out to them and see if we could do this. Is there any possibility? Town engineer?
Okay. We're meeting with the county, okay? I'm just going to be honest, they're going to tell me, you've been told that you can only do 340 connections, and I'm going to tell them that, hey, we have, and believe me, commissioners on the dais, as well as the managers, have already gone and spoken to the county commissioners and tried to get them to change their minds. So I don't have a problem talking to them again, telling them that we're going to lose $5.9 million. Is there any way we can squeeze 40 more connections in? Something like that, or anything. I'm just telling you what we've heard so far, that's all.
We could take away the connections from the people further up a road that we currently have marked for the sewer, take it away from them and put it with the people that need it more desperately than they do. You got to go priority. If a person needs a heart transplant to survive and they're laying on a ventilator and there's a person that had a heart attack, they say 5 years from now will need a heart. You want to get the person that's on the ventilator right now that's hooked up to a machine to get the new heart. You don't want to put it for a person that's at least 5 years out, and that's what we're doing. I want to get the people that are underwater right now to have sewer immediately, if possible. I want to see that pipe go right up to those 3 roads I named. They're the worst. And they're begging for it, and you're going to get greater participation. They're not going to wait 5 years. They're not going to wait a year or 2 years. They're going to say, please, hook me up tomorrow. And that's the difference. So now we know we're going to get a higher percentage hookups by doing this. But in return, yes, we're going to have to take some people that want it, but they're further up and they're high and dry. That's the way I want to see it done. And does anybody disagree with me on that that's up on the dais?
I hit the button.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's another option. And the other option is you can encourage people to turn around and to install advanced treatment units. And an advanced treatment unit, and you're familiar with them, so you know what I'm talking about. If you took the $5.9 million and you divided it by 20,000, you could turn around and incentivize 275 people to switch over to advanced treatment units.
Joe, that's it right there. It's on the board.
What's that?
The area we're talking about, it's on the board.
Oh, I know that. I was just trying to figure out the connection.
The other thing,
Town manager, good, I'm so sorry.
yeah, and I apologize. Just, again, facts, dealing with facts. We already have a contract that's out that is started this week for Part 2. So I don't know what it would take to rescind, that contract and the damages that we might face and so forth. Just an idea, again, I'm just throwing it out, and it's probably more of a legal question, but if, this truly is an emergency situation, do we get can we pull any more weight if we declared it as an emergency and went back to the county and say, listen, this is what we're dealing with king high tides and everything else?
Well,
I don't know, and does that help or no?
we have a shot. Next week, we can go before they're having a meeting with the state representatives, and Senator Harrell's going to be there. We could actually speak and talk to the commission at that time, see if there's anything we could do to expedite this, add these people. It's an emergency. They are underwater with king tides.
Well, it's
And-
the legislative delegation, it's not the county commission. There will be probably some commissioners there.
Oh, they'll be there.
So, okay.
And I think by asking to say our grant's about to expire, and we're limited, but right now we have 3 streets that are underwater. Specifically, I'm going to mention Riverview being the worst. And to watch that septic just be totally underwater for as long as it has, those septics now have been underwater for almost, how long has it been you live there? Now, I'm going to ask you, how long has your septic been underwater so far on Riverview? Has it been 2 months?
At least a month.
1 month under, yeah, in the king tide's a month. Yeah, it's about a month I've seen steady, at least. So we've seen 1 month where the water is coming in, then when it goes back out, it goes into the drains and directly into our river. So we got 1 month of fecal and urine going into our rivers, which we all value so much. And if that's not an emergency, I don't know what is. I'm sorry, Vice Mayor.
I was going to make a motion to adjourn, but that was before. I don't know. Anybody else want to speak?
Any other comments?
All right, then I make a motion that we adjourn.
Oh, we haven't finished.
Meeting?
What else you got?
Well, we have staff comments, commissioner comments.
We have the legislative agenda.
Right.
There you go.
All right, so okay, new business legislative agenda.
Yeah, I've been having problems with my computer, so I apologize, but I think you have it outlined in your agenda packet, and basically, we're looking at an appropriation, which is, what we've been successful in obtaining for the resiliency project, and basically the South Sewell's Point Road Resiliency Project, which for those of you that aren't aware of it, it's a roadway project where we raise the roadway and improve the drainage systems. And we're close to having everything together for Phase 2 of the project, and then that'll just leave Phase 4. So we're hoping that sometime during the year of next year, the fiscal year, we'd be able to start working on Phase 2. Which again encompasses some of this area. The other items that I put on there was obviously the ad valorem tax issue, and they're supposed to be addressing that on Friday at the Legislative Committee for the Florida League of Cities. I know the Vice Mayor is attending, and I'm attending in Orlando. And then, can I just look off of yours? I'm sorry. And then the vacation rentals, as a part of our legislative agenda, keeping a tight rein on, the grandfather clause that we have, because we enacted our ordinance back in 2010, I think, and it gets grandfathered in every year, but they try all the time to try to pull that away. And I think that's, again, part of what makes the makeup of this community. Other communities that can't regulate it because of the lobbyists from the vacation rental companies, that's where they deal with, 15 people staying in a house that's got 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, and, again, it's just a draw on services. So those are basically the 3 things that we had. Our ad valorem taxes are roughly 87% is what, we rely on for income. And then we're asking a $750,000 allocation, legislative appropriation, to go for the resiliency project. So if I can get a vote from the commission before you adjourn to adopt that agenda, if you're happy with it, if there's something you want added to it, I will make sure that the lobbyists get that and we move forward.
I was going to say, I'll make a motion for that agenda to go to the lobbyists, et cetera.
I second it.
Second.
You're a little late, Frank.
There's an echo in here.
Roll call.
Commissioner Titicus?
Yes.
Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Fender?
Yes, please.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burrell?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Now we go to staff comments.
Just real brief. As you mentioned, the legislative delegation meeting is being held October 21st, 2025, 9 a.m. to noon. It's at the Blake Library this year. It used to be out at IRCC. And we'll be in attendance, the mayor, myself, and any of the commissioners that want to go. Obviously, it's a public meeting, so the public's able to attend. The only thing with the commission, if there's going to be someone other than the mayor, we just want to make sure we post it so, everybody knows that we're at a public meeting.
I think I'm going to be there with the League of Cities, but
Okay.
we're doing something separate.
We'll post it anyhow then.
Okay.
So then if anybody wants to go, they can attend. And I just mentioned the legislative committee, so I'm done. Thank you.
Commissioner comments. Go ahead, Commissioner Mayfield.
Yeah, because I got to go get my son in a minute. Update on the detour for the Phase 3. It seems like one of the parts is kind of more done and drivable. So I have been getting inquiries as to, can we at least open up that part as opposed to the part that is clearly still under work? Joe? Just relaying what I hear. Or who?
We have a meeting with the contractor, and I think but I think the area that maybe we can open up is the one from Ridgeland to Homewood.
Give me a street, give me a street. I know Homewood in general, but give me a street.
Well, Ridgeland Road, and then the next street down is Via Lucinda, then the next one after that is Ridgeview. Those could probably, that part could be open soon. The problem is we do have some, we're still working on the adjacent properties, drainage issues, as well as you know, we really haven't built the retention areas.
Right.
We've been concentrating on outfalls and pipes in the road, and I know this week probably isn't a good example because we've had rain and high king tides and everything, but we've been getting a lot of work done with undergrounding pipe, and as you said, the area that isn't done is really from Rio Vista South.
Yeah.
And as you know, we do have some archaeological issues that we deal with there. So I'm not trying to talk you out of it, I'm just trying to tell you, to keep it closed would be pretty good for a little bit longer, only because they can get some of these drainage issues. They've been able to raise the road,
Yes.
which is good,
Yeah.
and obviously, but we really we'd like to try to get a little bit more of it done than what we
Okay.
have, that's all.
Quick question, what about being opened at nights and on nights and weekends? Is that just kind of,
I would say weekends, we'd probably be better off. The nighttime is, I'm not saying you can't do it, it's just they'd be spending a lot of time moving signs around. And I really would like to concentrate on getting the work done, so.
okay.
That's all.
I'm just the messenger here.
You've all been very patient. I do appreciate it, and the contractor appreciates it. He's making a lot of headway on this, but unfortunately, it's been good that we've been able to get this done. This is a lot bigger than Phase 1 was, a lot bigger.
Problem is, it looks good, like it's looking good. People are like, it's ready.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Vice Mayor.
I just have a question. How are we making out with our grants that we were waiting for?
The town has received the $2 million, and so with DEP, we're moving forward. Our reimbursements are coming in. HMGP, we are still in a holding pattern.
And of course, with the federal government being shut down, it doesn't help, so.
Commissioner Titicus.
Couple comments. One is kudos to the police. I've heard from a number of people that people have slowed down a little bit and they are observing more tickets being written, which You know, and I think that's a positive thing. Anyway, I've gotten some positive comments along those lines. The other thing was, at the last meeting, I had inquired as to our contract with the granting agencies. Do we have the opportunity to go back to these agencies and recover our lost interest because we pulled money out of our reserves in order to keep these contracts going?
I have not seen that particular language in our contracts,
Have you reviewed them all?
not all of them,
Okay.
so,
Has Mr. Torcivia had the opportunity to review them?
no, I haven't.
But I would doubt that if a granting agency doesn't provide funds, that they're going to be reimbursing us for our carrying costs or our interest. We could look, but.
I think we need to look.
We're looking, but-
If not, I would like to have a copy of the contracts so that I can read them. Thank you. And then the other question I have is, in terms of the $5.9 million grant, okay, for septic to sewer,
We don't have a $5.9 million grant.
we have $5.9 million left from the $8.4 million grant.
Now I understand.
Okay, for septic to sewer. Would we be precluded from providing or using that money to incentivize people to install advanced treatment units which are exempt from hooking up to a sewer system for the 360 homes that are sitting out there?
Probably because it's not in the actual contract with DEP, but I can ask that question.
Well, I think that that's a viable alternative if we could do that.
The one thing and we can debate this, but I know you use that system and it works great because you have it inspected and you treat it the way it's supposed to be treated. If individuals treat it like a septic tank and just let it go and don't take care of it, then it's, my understanding, it's no good. And, that's the problem you're going to run into, even with some people that have had septic tanks. If they ignore them, you're going to have a problem.
If you, if you apply for it and you get an advanced treatment unit, you're required by the state, number one, to have a maintenance contract on it. And number two, it has to be inspected on a quarterly basis. And so you're not going to run into this situation where people don't maintain them.
Okay.
And,
Is that the wish of the commission? Do you want me to look into that?
yes, what,
Yeah, if it doesn't cost a lot of money, yeah.
Okay.
I have to, excuse me, I have to pick up my son, I gotta head out.
okay. And
Take care.
Mrs. Aubrey Grace, please come up to the podium. We want to,
Hi, I'm Aubrey Grace with Visiting Angels. I do community relations, and I just live here in the neighborhood. Wanted to bring refreshments for everybody, so we provide in-home care. We have no contract and no minimum hours required, and we also partner with the VA to secure veterans benefits.
Well, thank you for the work
thank
you
you
do.
very much.
And thank you for bringing goodies.
All right, anybody want to make a motion to?
Move for adjournment.
You
And I-
didn't give me a chance to second it.
And the goodies.